Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our live State of the Union coverage over here at Breaking Points. Is your ear okay?
It's fine. No, that was okay. It was acceptable.
Okay, yeah. I try to keep it at manageable levels.
She's ready for it this time of
night.
Right,
when Emily is in the immediate vicinity over here. We're going to do some of our live State of the Union coverage, but we got a couple, actually, news updates for everybody on the Iran situation ahead of that. But first, we're going to preview, I think, the State of the Union, Krystal. So what do we have?
It's apparently going to be really long.
Yes, that's one thing we should flag for everyone involved. A PBS reporter is saying that it is between 2 to 2.5 hours, possibly 3 hours. Emily,
depending
I do
on
believe
ad-libs and how long.
Depending on ad-libs
and
the applause. So can we just agree no applause? There's like no applause, none of the fake where like only the Republicans rise.
Can we put this on 2.0?
Yeah, can we put it on 2.0? Emily, you have confirmed that via a source. Is that correct about the 2-hour timeline? Is that what we're looking at?
It's going to be a long one. I don't know specifically 2 hours, but I know that it's really long. And actually a little bit of history.
Okay.
I think the longest ever written State of the Union, you might know this.
Okay.
It was Jimmy Carter, and it was like 33,000 words.
Yeah, but didn't he deliver it?
I was going to guess Bill Clinton.
It was written. Bill Clinton.
Did he give the longest like DNC speech or something
Yes,
like that?
he did. I remember that speech. Actually, it was not a bad speech.
Near 2.5 hours.
That was not a horrible speech,
The one
if I
in
recall.
2000 was the longest of ever until Trump's joint address last year. It was an
But that's
hour and
not a State of the
28
Union.
minutes.
It doesn't count.
Right, but Clinton's State of the Union was an hour and 28 minutes in 2000.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
To be alive in 2000, just think an hour 28.
Yeah.
You know, how horrible that could all be. But here
You
we
had
are.
better things to do in 2000.
Yeah, that's true.
You needed to watch like Alias or whatever it was on.
Still getting over the Y2K scare, you know.
Oh, what a year. Wow, yeah. It was February. Man, it actually must have been kind of a terrifying time to go through Y2K. So anyway, so we're going to preview it. We're going to fit in as much of the news that we can
there's
as
actually a lot
possible.
that
There is a
happened
lot
today.
of stuff going on, just literally since we taped the show this morning. But we want to kick it off with State of the Union
Yeah,
stuff? What do you
let's
think?
go ahead and take a look at, we can put A1 up on the screen just to start with a little bit of presidential job approval ratings. So this is where Trump stood last year, where he was actually slightly above water. This is based on the Real Clear Politics average, which is a little favorable towards him in general. But in any case, now he's minus 13. And again, this is pretty good compared to some of the other polls that came out. Saagar and I covered this morning. He's negative like 42 with independents or something like that. Lowest ratings in history in terms of independents. The coalition that brought him into office has crumbled. I saw another story today. I know, you've been tracking this. The Maha moms are completely revolting, so you've lost them. You've got a bunch of podcast bros pissed off about Epstein, pissed off about potential Iran war, which we're going to talk more about today. You've got young people who have fled. You've got Latinos who have fled. You've got a bunch of people who are upset. I would say the economy is probably the biggest problem, but as I said this morning, I think the Epstein cover-up has also been a disaster for him in terms of his brand. So there's all of this that is hanging over him as he goes into the speech tonight. I mean, what are you thinking about what he needs to accomplish or what they're going to try to accomplish with this speech? Because one of the hardest things to do is to convince the American people that the economy is different than what their experience is day to day.
Very true.
So consumer confidence, I went and pulled the numbers, is actually even down among Republicans. So it's down a lot among independents, but it's also down year to year among Republicans. And this is an important point because Politico recently looked at some surveys of Republicans. A CNN survey found 82% of Republicans approved of the job that Trump was doing. It sounds like a really big number. It's down 8% year over year from the last time that he gave his joint address. The Washington Post, a recent survey, found 48% of Republicans, quote, approve strongly of Trump's performance. That is a double-digit decline
Wow.
Wow,
from
that's very interesting,
63% a year ago.
That
And
is
that's
actually huge.
That's particularly interesting in a midterm cycle because what you need to do, obviously.
There's no enthusiasm to come out and vote. That's the biggest problem.
Right.
Wow, I didn't
And-
think about that. That's very interesting.
Well, yeah, and I mean, so the numbers for Trump among Republicans still look good on paper, but when you compare them year over year, there's obviously a problem. So that's what Trump in the State of the Unions tries to usually give, and most presidents try to usually give something that's going to appeal to as many people as possible. It's one of the few times you have a big chunk of the country truly listening. At the same time, he also needs to give some red meat to the base, and that's probably going to be a very difficult thing to pull off, doing both at the same time.
Can I, okay, 1 second, Ryan. Can I challenge the premise of the question, can you accomplish anything in this speech?
You should.
I saw John Favreau tweet, not usually in the business of citing Pod John, but he says, I was head speechwriter for 5 State of the Unions. It's become a relic of a speech that barely matters for 24 hours that anyone's paying attention.
But Saagar, we're trying to
no,
get people
I know, but they're watching.
Hour-long live stream leading into a fucking 3-hour speech.
Right, yeah.
And if you start off by being like, none of this shit matters, then can we all go home, please?
Yeah.
Okay?
Someone check if the numbers just went down.
Let's go.
No, the numbers are going up.
That's
all
right.
And I'm
Okay.
because we're honest.
Yeah, exactly. We're honest over here. And I actually thought this was very insightful. He goes, people are paying attention, tend to be politically engaged, who have already made up their minds. This is true when the speech is success, true when it's a disaster. Most are fine. The stakes are not high. The test is not whether he can stay on message or avoid picking fights or throwing feces at John Roberts. The only thing he could do tonight to marginally improve GOP fortunes would be to acknowledge he hasn't been focused on people's financial struggles. I'm sure he'll nail that.
Let me make a case for it matters. Okay.
Well, Favreau made a case for it matters at the end of that. He said the only thing that matters is saying that, making people think that he's working on the economy.
And not throwing feces at John
not to
Roberts.
piss all over our special coverage, but I saw that and I was like, yo, that's like damn
I'm going to make an
insightful.
earnest case, though, because when some of the Biden State of the Unions, when he was really on the decline, the fact that he was able to get up there and get through it in a reasonable fashion actually was kind of important. I mean, it ended up being terrible for Democrats. It would have been better if he'd, fallen over on stage and they'd pulled, the ripcord on him sooner.
Although we said at the time, and this, proud of this, it does not matter that he's hopped up on goofballs and can get through this speech.
Yeah.
He's still way too old.
Yes.
But cable news was like, he's still got
that
it.
helped
The
him,
man's got some zip on that fastball.
Continue to paper over until the infamous where we were all sitting here.
To be honest,
beat
to zag from my own coverage,
go
to
zag.
my own point that I just made, we
Saagar
were
and
literally
Jetty.
sitting here 4 years ago. Actually, probably not at this desk, at the old desk. And I'm pretty sure that we were doing the reaction to the Ukraine speech, because it's 4 years to the day now since the invasion of Ukraine. That was probably Biden's best speech of his entire presidency, because
he was a young man then.
He, right, yeah. It was just a spring 78. Actually, I think he was exactly the same age as Trump is today, giving this speech. But it was like he did pretty well. Like he's like, oh, NATO will stand strong. And even though his approval ratings and all that were in the tank, and they were underwater because of Afghanistan, he got like a very temporary bump, and that's why everyone was flying, the Ukrainian flag colors, and there was a lot of solidarity about how we'll all pay $5 gas for the Eastern Donbass region. But that actually was a very important speech for him heading into 2022.
Well,
and yeah, I would say it got him a couple of years in terms of.
And now we have the possibility of war with Iran hanging imminently over us. I mean, that's the biggest thing I'm going to be listening for in this speech. I mean, I know the typical bullshit that Trump is going to spew about, well, we've got $80 bajillion that are being invested here and America's back and we're not funding the transgender mice anymore or whatever. Like, you can predict, more or less where this is going.
Yeah.
The tariffs, what he's going to say there, although I'd say, we more or less know already he's going to try to use these other authorities to do more or less what he was doing before, but I think he's been significantly constrained in just being able to wield them as a cudgel how he has. But I think we'll all be listening very closely on Iran, especially after you had members come out from the Gang of Eight today, Chuck Schumer saying oh, this is very serious and he needs to make the case to the American people. Not that he's opposed to it, just that he needs to make a case. But, I think that gives some added significance to this since we're flirting with this.
Yeah, and he is, so those, like you said, those numbers that you showed, 42% approval, are even high by, there are a bunch going around in the 30s. And I think
that's the RCP average.
Right, and those numbers, I think, are connected to why he's going to go on and on and on and on and on. Because from everything I've heard, you guys would know better, he believes, and Democrats believe the same thing, you always hear them say this, the problem is not them, the problem is the messaging. They're doing amazing things, but Trump, he considers himself a genius when it comes to messaging. He's surrounded by idiots, apparently. He just can't find good messengers, and they're not selling the genius of Trumpism. He's even said, what's wrong with people? Why don't they appreciate? He recognizes.
He did literally say that in Iowa.
Yeah, it's like he acknowledges that people do not recognize his genius. He is still trying to figure out what the gap is there. He thinks the gap is not enough of his brilliant messaging. So this is his chance
to endlessly
work
drone
that
on.
magic.
Ryan is really onto something though, because
Yeah.
Biden believed this, Obama believed this. This is like a time-honored tradition. Oh, Clinton believed it.
Right.
You
That's
know,
a good
before
point.
like this is Bush believed it too.
Harry Reid
on
used to
Iraq,
say it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Harry Reid would often say. There
They
is
care about
something
it.
about the narcissism
not
of
you.
these individuals
It's the
that
message.
it's the message.
Right, and they're being generous. Trump
Yes.
is the only, what they really mean is that it's you.
Right, yeah, it's your problem.
I'm not
It's your
explaining
fault.
it well enough to you idiots to
I
get
will
it.
Right.
say, I'm sure you
He's
guys
not
find-
understanding.
Trump's the only one to go
greatness.
all the way and be like, what's wrong with that?
Right. Emily, I'm sure you hear this too. On the rare occasions when I'll still get calls from the White House or people involved, it's always, why do you focus on the negative? Right? It's like, why are you always focusing on the
journalists
negative?
do.
And I was like, yeah, well, first of all, you weren't complaining we were doing that under Biden, were you? But second, you know, the real
What about
thing
all the
is
times
like,
he actually
what
walked
about,
across
yeah,
stage
and I was like,
without
but
falling?
also, if the major news is negative, that's the news, bro. Like, I don't invent the news, right? They're like, but you didn't cover our, oh, man, I got reamed out for not covering that credit card interest thing, which, by the way, we
Which
did
turned
cover.
out to be
Wait,
fake.
What? But I was gonna say, and then what happened just 2 days ago? Oh, actually, somebody came out and they're saying, oh, that the thing has died. I have heard that it will be resuscitated in the speech tonight. But
course.
the point is like, is it gonna happen? Right? Is any of this shit actually going to happen? I remember covering this under Biden. There was remember he had like a 22 thing checklist. This was years ago under Biden, where they would have like a checklist for every coalitional group in the Democratic Party. And after a while, we were like, at a certain point, like, well, why are we even doing this?
I
Like,
thought that
you
was
know
an
this is fake.
Obama thing, was my recollection.
It could be that
yeah,
too. I mean,
everybody's
we've-
looking to get their mention.
Right, exactly. Like
Yeah.
the AFL-CIO needs this paragraph. You know, this group needs its paragraph. But everyone individually knows when you watch that, it's fake. Like the entire thing is just rhetoric. And like that's what we see right now, I think, from the current White House. Like they're gonna be furious that nobody's selected. One of their guests is, what is it, some 14-year-old girl who, whatever, like was told by a school counselor she was trans, and now she goes to Liberty University, and this is going to get a big shout out to call for gender transition, against gender transition for minors, for a state, you know, to ban against. It's like, okay, you know, sure, but like we're talking about war with Iran, bro. Like, you know, the stakes of this are just in a whole other dimension.
Well,
and that's what they are furious for media coverage, etc. And I mean, not to put some of my old colleagues on blast, but part of the problem is that a lot of these conservative journalists actually do what they want,
a huge
where they put this stuff out as it's just a press release. Like the Daily Wire, I haven't even mentioned this. The Daily Wire, remember that gambling thing I was furious about, the CFTC, that advisory committee?
Yeah.
They were like Scoop. They just printed the literal press release from the CFTC. Right? That's not journalism, man. Like, what are you doing
Scoop
here?
got the press
This is
release.
literally a press release. I'm seeing this right
Scoop,
now
check
with
my
State of the
email.
Union guests.
Well,
It's ridiculous.
And I mean, the problem, like this is a
Yeah.
bigger conversation about media, but like the problem is that conservative media sees itself as filling the gaps that legacy media is not doing. And yes, sometimes that means covering things that are more favorable to the right than to the left, but
Right.
it also creates this massive opening for people who are critical of Trump from the right, i.e. Nick Fuentes, and that's been
Sure.
part of my theory of
Yeah,
the case the
very
entire
true.
time. And on that note, Nate Silver has a similar number to RCP. He has Trump's approval rating at 41.3%, his disapproval rating at 55.6%, and he breaks it down in a really interesting way. He says, under the hood, some of the numbers look even more bearish for Trump than the top line would imply. Most Americans strongly approve or disapprove of the job Trump is doing, while comparatively fewer only somewhat approve or disapprove. So then he says the share of Americans, and Harry Enton has zeroed in on this number too, who strongly approve of Trump has dropped from 34% when he was inaugurated to just 24% today. That's also double digits with what we were comparing the RCP numbers, or where we were comparing the RCP numbers from. And the share who strongly disapprove has risen from 31% to 45%. And so to this point that you were making about the midterms, that's where politically engaged people are watching the State of the Union. Like the types of people who vote in midterm elections are the types of people who are watching the State of the Union. They might not check in on politics every single day. They might not follow it as a hobby, but they're the types of people that sit down and watch the State of the Union. They make a point to do it, and they make a point to vote in major elections. So that's actually interesting in this sense, because Trump has clearly lost some people who strongly approved of him.
Yeah,
and he's
that's-
gained the strongly disapproved.
That was always his superpower.
Yes.
That was always there. We
100%.
talked about this so many times that, you know, even when like Biden's approval would be roughly equivalent to him, it wouldn't be the same because Biden never had that fervent group of support.
Yes.
Trump has always had that fervent base of support that would crawl over broken
The Fifth
glass
Avenue voters.
to support exactly the Fifth Avenue voters. And so to see that eaten away is really significant. And I think a big part of it is economics
Yep.
and Epstein. And just today, we have another revelation about how some of the material that was withheld was from this interview with a woman who accused Trump of sexual assault when she was a girl. And this is being covered up in the files. This is material, by the way, that wasn't covered up for Ghislaine Maxwell, was given to her in the context of the discovery process for her trial. And so this is the sort of news that is coming out every day. And you have to tie it together with the march to war with Iran as well. Because if this was information our government has, they certainly would assume this is information that the Israeli government has. And you have to ask these questions when you have the president of the United States and the whole administration shot through with people who are littered throughout the Epstein files. Right. So it connects directly. But I mean, just think of the moment you're in. He's just had this huge loss at the Supreme Court with regard to the tariffs. Tariffs were a failure anyway at accomplishing any of the myriad of goals that they claimed that they wanted to accomplish. Looming war of choice with Iran. You've got the markets now that are very jittery. You had another crash during part of today that somewhat recovered, but this is all driven by AI disruption. This is really starting to hit home for people both from the data center front and from the job loss front. You've got all of these Epstein scandals, and then you have this overarching economic malaise. And we were looking this morning, we went back and looked at the speech from last year, and it feels like a time warp. I mean, it was easy when I read that speech to put myself back in that moment.
Golden age.
Of all the coalition and the vibes and how different that all was. There was a long section on woke. He's calling Elizabeth Warren Pocahontas. It was the peak of Doge. So Elon's there and he's being celebrated, and they're talking about the transgender mice that they're not going to fund anymore, and there's all this hopium around how this is going to be some great thing, and we've got all these brilliant people involved, and they're going to cut the fat in government. You had all of this, and the other piece that we looked at is he's like, we're going to end the Ukraine war.
Yes.
This war's been going on endlessly, and we're sending all this money, and we're going to get it done. We're going to, sure, it didn't happen in 24 hours, but this is something we're going to solve that the Democrats were unable to. That was one where I thought maybe, possibly, that was something that he could actually accomplish. Obviously, there no end in sight on that. No one barely talks about it anymore, and this week was the 4-year anniversary of it.
No, literally.
And I think
it's crazy.
Yeah, if you compare the two different Trumps, like Trump when he was at his strongest was taking on the entire establishment, and the stand-in for it would often be like the New York Times or like whatever cable news person he's calling fake news and enemies of the people, and he's constantly fighting with them. And you had until COVID like no inflation for the first Trump, and you had wages growing substantially, and I think people actually associated his immigration policy with wages rising. Like I talked to a bunch of people that like, I don't agree that that's what's happening here, but they would say, here's a guy who's talking about building the wall and talking about immigration, and my wages are going up relative to what I've been making before. Like, so they were like building trades.
Making that connection.
Although immigration went up over the first Trump administration.
That's why I'm saying it. Yeah. I don't necessarily agree with them, but that's how they felt it.
People experience it.
Yeah, it's reasonable because you're hearing that, and now there's more money in your pocket. Now, like, he's not doing that fight against the establishment anymore. He is the establishment. He's like the kingpin of the Epstein class. He's throwing all this money at AI, and ICE. Before I'm going to build the wall. Democrats are for open borders, and it was kind of an abstract fight. Now, like, American citizens are getting shot in the streets by CBP and ICE, and there's all of this like intense chaos.
Yeah.
And people are like, oh, like. Talking about immigration and my wages going up, that I approve of. Like my wages going down relative to inflation, and you killing people.
Right.
And dragging people out of their homes, like that's not what I'm here for.
There's been like a compounding like polycrisis for Trump. I would say number one is the loss of revolutionary spirit. And that's kind of ties in Epstein, war, even ICE, to be honest, because fundamentally, it was about what? It was like a vote against, and again, like for a lot of the people who were voting in the election at the time, they're like, I genuinely feel like things are so completely out of control. At the border, from the economy, the people at the very top. That's why we have to hit the red button, and we need to blow this shit up. Like, that's the theory behind all of it, right? And that's kind of what the vibe was. And now that I think about it, I said this morning, I never really understood the vibes behind Doge. Like, I actually never clocked it. That for so many people, they're like, no, this is like a really important thing for me. Because I was like, come on, like, you don't understand how appropriations works in Congress. But nobody wanted to hear it. But the point, like, that kind of remains around it is For them, the government was a decrepit apparatus. It needed revamping. There was a lot of juice around Elon, with Tesla, and his public image had not yet taken the hit originally, especially in 2024 and sometime in early 2025. There was a feeling that things were going to be radically different, and we're a year in now. It's not radically different. If anything, it's radically the same. Like the war on Iran policy looks the same for my entire life. The same. I mean, if anything with Venezuela, we've just abandoned the pretext, right? Now we've abandoned the pretext. We're just doing full bore Latin Americans, quasi-colonialism all over against 1980s Reagan-esque. Today, Trump is going to call in his speech for more corporate and personal tax cuts, which is vintage Bush-era policy. This is not 2016 with Steve Bannon talking about potentially raising the higher marginal tax rate. This is also, I heard he's going to talk about data centers tonight, but it's going to be very pro AI, but the AI companies have to provide their own energy for the data centers. It's trying to square the circle. That's not where people are
That's
right now.
very interesting.
No,
the AI component of it will be very interesting.
There's going to be a part of the speech tonight, from what I was told, specifically trying to address the data center. Because look, the people in the White House are not stupid. They're trying to do the executive order stuff with the remember the BlackRock housing policy, credit card interest rates. They see the stuff that goes viral. The data centers, they're aware right now. Our data center activist interview did some 200,000 views. This is a random activist in New Brunswick, New Jersey.
Well, and here's the thing, it hits their coalition.
Exactly.
Many of these data centers are located in
Rural
rural
areas,
where
yes.
people, in my town,
where they
they're
have to be,
located there.
literally,
And
yeah.
and it's where I live is very conservative. And people are upset because they also have the view of this is a rural area. We want to keep it that way. There's a certain,
degrowth.
Yeah, there's exact degrowth. Yeah, we're all
Really?
degrowthers out there. But no, they're the sense
I
of
actually might be a degrowth.
let's go.
Unironically.
Let's
Data
go.
centers.
Yeah,
Probably gonna get your wish.
He grew up in Texas. and he's
Data
like,
centers and ICE
Don't California my
concentration
Texas.
camps. I am definitely a degrowther on those two areas in particular. Definite degrowther here. But in any case,
you're
you know,
no
it
one
really-
Alligator Alcatraz.
I'm a soft no. My mind's open. No.
Not in my Everglades.
What if they added air conditioning?
There are a lot of NIMBY efforts to shut down those deportation centers. They just
I know.
did it.
They
They
just
just
did
did
it.
it in
Trump
New
did.
Hampshire.
There was
Yeah.
a Texas one
Nobody
where
wants that
there
in
was
the backyard.
there was local pressure, and the guy who owned the warehouse was like, "I'm not."
I saw
selling
that.
to you."
Yeah, the guy, the lease or whatever, he was like, "Listen, guys,
Like,
I'm
I'm
not
not
selling
doing
this.
this.
I can't do it." Yeah.
But to me, the two most devastating polls that came out for Trump weren't the approval ratings or the issue ratings or whatever. There was one that came out that said people would prefer Biden to him, and there was another that came out that said they would vote. And this was a sample that was weighted to the Trump +1 from the previous election that said they would vote for Kamala Harris by 8 points.
Wow.
They should put, if they want
so
to make him really
devastating.
mad, put Obama up against him.
Oh, forget! I think I did see that one, and that was
No, he
that
did
one
not
was
like that.
devastating. Yeah,
Let's
that's
not
absolutely
go
devastating.
crazy.
Don't even show it
But
to
yeah,
him.
That's how you get him to do the third term thing.
Yeah,
Don't even show it to
that
him.
is very true. I do. Yeah, sorry.
I was just going to say, let's talk a little bit more about the what we're seeing with the possibility of war with Iran, because it's feeling increasingly inevitable and imminent. So I don't know, any of you guys, any sort of
Why don't we
rumblings
play
that
the
you're
SOT
hearing?
and then we can.
You want the Schumer
react to
SOT?
it. Yeah, guys, can we go ahead and roll B1, please? It is the Schumer SOT. Let's take a listen.
This is serious, and the administration has to make its case to the American people.
So that was our great opposition. Thank you, Senator Schumer. He says this is serious, and the administration has to make its
And
case
this is
to the American people.
After they had just briefed them.
Yes.
Right.
So he's
Mark
just
Warner.
heard whatever they said, and he comes out and says, this is serious, and they need to make the case. So presumably what they're saying to them behind closed doors is, this is a go, this is happening. And I mean, the pathetic nature of Chuck Schumer and almost all of the other Democrats
I'll give you
goes
the other
without
one.
saying.
Here's
Yeah.
Senator Mark Warner, Vice Chair of Senate Intel. He's in the Gang of Eight right after the meeting. Quote, I just heard, an extraordinary serious time. I think it is incumbent upon the president to make the case what our country's goals are, what our counter interests are, how we're going to protect American interests in the region. Maybe we'll hear that tonight, but if we don't hear it tonight, we need to hear it very, very, very soon.
Oh my God.
So
But
we're
also,
hosts.
I'm so sick. I'm also so
yeah.
sick of these kinds of people. Chris Coons did the same thing, who could be the head of foreign affairs if
Yep.
What?
Democrats
Really?
take the Senate. It's like,
no.
it came out and said the same thing. We need to hear the case. What case do you need to hear?
Right.
Like what? Like, How old, are you a child? Are you 4?
Right.
Like you are a
yes.
senator who's like one of your responsibilities is foreign policy.
Yeah.
Like
Just
if
know.
you don't know a case, there isn't a case.
Yeah.
So just
But do you think
why
Trump's-
don't
do you
you
think
make
Trump
the
has the
case?
case?
How
Yes.
about you make the case against it?
Trump-
How about that?
Why are we
has-
even pretending that there's a case to be made?
There's no
no
case.
case.
Well,
It's all
okay.
fake.
They're,
Like,
well, they want the intel, right? They want the intel that tells them it's going to be perfect. It's
So-
going to be smooth and functional, and they already know what.
No,
I
they
mean,
want to not have responsibility.
Right.
That's
They want
the
war.
reality.
They want
They
war.
want war,
Yeah.
but they don't want to say, I want war because they know the base is opposed. 95% of Democrats, according to the polling, 95% oppose this, okay?
And the other 5 serve in the United
And-
States Senate.
Within a 5-mile radius
what's the
of where we
Republican
sit
number?
right
Do
now.
you know? I'd be curious.
I'm not. I'd have to go back and
Yeah.
look. The overall number in that poll was, I think, 70% opposed, and Democrats were 95% opposed. Independents were, so Republicans were, I don't know, maybe like
I'm sure.
56%.
When told Trump supports it, it will be 100.
It will
So,
shift,
so,
yeah.
John, so Jonathan Karl, did you see this? So he was at the White House
Yeah.
today for this like lunch or whatever with Trump and some other like network anchors. I wonder if Cuomo gets counted in that.
Right.
Anyway, he came out of it and said, Trump said that, he's fine to go to war. Iran doesn't want us to go to war, but they won't say the one thing that I need them to say, which is I won't have nukes.
That's not even true.
Not even true.
Yeah.
So, Aragchi, the foreign minister today, this is on Twitter, which Trump has access to again after the Supreme Court or whoever put him back on there. Our fundamental convictions are crystal clear, Iran will under no circumstances ever develop a nuclear weapon.
Right.
Neither will we Iranians ever forego our right to harness the dividends of peaceful nuclear technology for our people.
Yeah.
So that civilian nuclear program. They've also, Jeremy has a piece where he talked to some Iranian officials saying that they're willing to be even more flexible than they were under Obama. And they understand, I think, that what Trump wants, it doesn't matter. All he wants is a better deal than Obama got.
So
That he can say.
Yeah.
So that would mean a pause maybe in all civilian enrichment. Say, look, fine. We won't even do for an indefinite period of time. We won't even do civilian enrichment. Obama couldn't get us to that. Kerry couldn't, but you got it.
But the
sir.
problem with that, Ryan, is it presumes the reality of these negotiations. So basically,
Right.
what I was told recently is that this whole thing is a farce. Steve Witkoff
Which
and
they
Jared
believe,
Kushner
yeah.
are the people who are in the room. The Obama administration took 2.5 years with the most sophisticated
Right.
nuclear scientists in the country, working line by line, going over specific amounts of what you can enrich and that's not what's currently happening. The U.S. team doesn't include a single expert actually on the entire thing. It's all political people. Secondary to that is we're presuming this is about nuclear. It's not. The hang-ups around ballistic missiles and around these red lines, fake red lines that have been invented by the Israeli government. And this is why the talks, I think, are literally doomed to fail. We actually just got a super chat, which I think is very insightful. This guy says Trump's speech will do a George W. Bush deadline to Iran. This is what I was predicting
Yeah, that's
earlier.
smart.
You have 48 hours to disarm, and otherwise, that's it. We're going to go. There was a theory that he might bomb today. I think it's very unlikely because Prime Minister Modi is literally right about to land in the country. We're not going to be launching a war, putting the Indian Prime Minister at risk immediately, but it would be classic Trumpian theater for the best headline that you could get in the immediate term to be like, you have 72 hours to make a deal, or we're going to have bombers that are coming over your country.
Classic U.S. Saddam Hussein took that deal. This is kind of lost to the history, but I remember when it happened. Bush said you have to agree to all of these terms in 48 hours, 72, whatever it was. Saddam's like, okay,
Yeah.
I agree. Inspectors anywhere you want, no weapons of mass destruction, whatever you want. And I remember thinking, because I was an idiot, oh, thank God. We're not going to get a war.
Problem solved.
Good.
Great job.
You made demands. Yeah. He met them unconditionally. We're not going to have a war.
But see, that's why this is so similar.
Doesn't work that way, apparently.
You think this is about diplomacy now? We got 2 carrier strike groups in the region. Let's put the drop site treaty, B-2. Let's put this up. This just happened today. 12 U.S. F-22 stealth fighters departed the RAF base in the UK, deploying to the Israeli Air Force base in southern Israel. Sometimes, let's just believe it for what it is. When we're deploying stealth fighter jets to Israel to protect Israel, that's it. The negotiations are fake. They're literally designed to fail.
I just want it on the record that the Iranians are offering everything.
Yes, no, I agree with you. I'm with
like-
you 100%. Yes.
It's just so we're clear that we're just doing war because we can.
So we do have some numbers on this. This is from a Wall Street Journal piece that says, quote, a recent Harvard Capps Harris poll found that self-identified MAGA Republicans are the group most likely to back regime change in Iran. 75% said they supported it versus only 69% of self-identified traditional Republicans, 52% of independents, and 51% of Democrats. That's according to the Harvard poll. Now, if you look at the YouGov poll, that has...
Is that Harris X?
Probably.
The Harvard-Harris one?
Yeah.
Yeah. The YouGov poll has
Worst poll.
58%
Worst
of
polling.
Republicans somewhat or strongly supporting an attack on Iran. That number is only 9% among Democrats and only 15% among independents.
It makes sense. If you guys watching, in times like this, I always turn on Fox. It is mainline propaganda. Did you see the CIA thing? Do we have that? B3. Can we put that up there on the screen? This is nuts. Jeremy's flagged this today. The CIA is posting a video in Farsi encouraging Iranians to contact the agency, offering instructions for using Tor and other encrypted methods to do so. You know who else is sharing this? And it was shared in conjunction with the Pahlavi family. Like, this is out in the open. Like, literally. Like, the monarchists, I told you this,
They're all
Ryan.
in Northern Virginia. They're probably at
Potomac,
the same...
Maryland. I told Ryan and the team this. Jeopardy is manufacturing consent. They recently had a question on Jeopardy which said, this Maryland man is being floated as the new leader of Iran. And by the way,
Abrego Garcia.
none of the contestants got it. Only I got it. But I was like, Pahlavi. My wife is like, be quiet. The baby's sleeping. But I was like,
Shout out
She
to
knows
my
better.
Uber driver from today. She said she had recently driven him.
no.
Yeah.
He's taking Ubers?
Do you remember that car that I
Uber
sent
share.
you guys that had the vanity plate that was like Pahlavi?
Yeah, I do remember that,
It was
yes.
a Virginia license plate.
Yeah.
I got to find that picture. But actually, this is State of the Union purposes. Trump now has to make the America First case for Iran. And so if you think, to Krystal's point, that some of the depressed enthusiasm for Trump has nothing to do with his foreign policy misadventures, you would be in disagreement with Susie Wiles and basically the entire White House, which looked back on 2025 and said he was hosting all of these foreign dignitaries constantly. Marjorie Taylor Greene has made this criticism
she made this
sharply, that you have this rotating cycle of foreign leaders coming in and out of the White House, and it's distracted from domestic policies. And that has been why they sent Trump, for example, to Iowa to make an affordability-focused speech where he kind of blamed voters for not being happy with his economy.
He's going to Texas this week, too, as part of the affordability pitch. I forget exactly what it is, but it's actually more important for the Texas primary purposes because none of the three Republicans were actually invited to the speech, which is kind of interesting.
And I saw, just as like a note, in terms of also some of the fractures, along the edges of his base and his coalition. Thomas Massie, who he's been, of course, at war with, because Massie has been a warrior in particular on partnering with Ro Khanna on releasing the Epstein files. Massie is going to sit with the Democrats, sit with Ro Khanna in particular. At the same time, you have this Tony Gonzalez scandal,
Oh my God.
which is we haven't covered on the show.
we haven't covered it
This is the type of thing in any other normal era, like the
you're
level
dead.
of we would be covered. I mean, it would be covered so extensively. But this man pressured his staffer to have an affair, and we've seen the text messages. I mean, they're really despicable, where he's pressuring her to send him photos, and she's kind of like resisting. They end up having an affair. Her husband finds out. They get a divorce, and she ends up committing suicide, like sets herself on fire. It's just the most horrible story. And so now you've got a number of Republicans, including Thomas Massie, who went in today, but a number of Republican women as well, who are calling for him to resign for quite obvious reasons. There's Lauren Boebert, saying this. I think Nancy Mace has come out as well, and Thomas Massie gave a floor speech talking about this as well. So you've got those, these things bubbling also in terms of the public consciousness and what's going on for the Republicans right now.
It's horrible. It's you're right. This would be Anthony Weiner wall-to-wall
Oh my
coverage
God.
in the normal times. But again, like we're on the verge of war, so it's not like number one. But also, none of the Republicans want to take it seriously because it would shave their majority. Because as I understand it, if they lost
Paxton
Kansas,
is at the State of the Union, by the way.
right.
Yeah,
Is he
I'm
somebody's
seeing this
guest?
right now.
Yeah, I think
Yep.
he's somebody's guest
Yep.
for. from one of the people in Congress. But if they lost Gonzalez, then they could only have one defection, including Thomas Massie. And that's the main reason. They're like, no, we can't do it. They're like, we'd lose our majority, basically.
Right.
It was
let
the whole
Santos stick around for that
Right,
reason.
yeah, that's let's say it's the same exact problem for them. So, yeah, I wonder how they're going to handle it.
We're getting
a
is he the
few
nominee in that
excerpts.
district?
Who is? Gonzalez?
So he's going to lose now? Is that the?
I don't know if he has like a
would
significant primary
Yeah.
challenge or not.
Oh, that's what I meant. Yeah, of course he's not the nominee yet.
Right.
The Texas primary is next week.
Probably doesn't, but
I believe
Yeah.
he's a South Texas guy.
he's Southwest Texas. Yeah,
I'm fairly
Remember
certain.
didn't he lose like a narrow race and then come back? and
Wait,
win?
guys, huge news. John Fetterman is in a suit for the State of the Union. So he's now dressed up for Donald Trump and for...
That-
BB.
Wait. Clarification. A tracksuit?
We'll see. Yeah, I haven't seen a picture.
One
I
of
just
those
saw,
t-shirts
I just
that
saw a
looks like a
reporter.
suit.
Tuxedo t-shirt.
Tuxedo t-shirt. I would not put it
That's the
past him.
Grimm special.
There you go.
I got to give a shout out to my man Graham. He did say that he would always wear a suit in the United States.
What do they
He
call the
appreciate
denim?
it.
actually
They
has
call
a
that like a
Canadian
Canadian
tuxedo.
tux.
Yes. Don't knock it till you try it. Okay.
That's one of my favorites,
Yeah,
yeah.
I actually think it's a good look. It's making a comeback.
Well, in terms of the political landscape, we've been talking internally about the Texas primaries, which are coming up next week. You've got interesting races on both the Democratic and Republican side, and we could put C1 up on the screen here as well. This is the turnout thus far in the early vote. Like a ridiculous number of Democrats have turned out. So if you look at those numbers on the side of the screen, you've got 2020 was the previous high water mark. You had 375,000 who had turned out this, at this point during early voting. That's remember, that's in a very competitive Democratic primary, presidential primary. And that has been blown out of the water. By 2026, you now have 619,000 Democrats. They're vastly outpacing Republican turnout, early voting turnout. So some are saying, maybe don't write Texas off yet. Maybe this is the year,
Senator
Ryan.
Jasmine Crockett.
Maybe this is the year.
I'll believe it whenever.
I mean, I think everybody, I think we all feel like Tallarico's probably got the wind in his sails at this point, right?
He
in terms of
seems
the
to
Democratic primary.
I don't know. I mean,
Colbert bump.
I go back and forth. The polling
I
is
do
not.
think that helped him, don't you?
No, 100%. The
Yeah.
CBS thing was huge.
Absolutely.
The
Yeah.
polling discrepancy is a bit of a problem. Like, there's a lot coming out. Exactly. It's really hard to find who exactly is up actually in the race. But he's gotten a lot of positive press. I also think Texas Democrats are very pragmatic. Like, for them, they want to they want to try and nominate somebody who actually has a possible chance of winning. And the Beto story is not unforgotten. He came within 2 points of beating Ted Cruz. I still think that is the high watermark for a Democrat in Texas. I mean, I could be wrong.
Well,
of course. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say there are some numbers on this.
Yeah.
If you go back and look at Dem favorability, they're worse off now. They're less favorable now among voters than they were in 2018, which was a blue tsunami year.
Right.
Like, that was an absolute rout. And the other thing is they have a smaller lead in the generic congressional ballot. So a couple of those things suggest, that it's not quite the same energy that it was post Women's March. But Ryan, you kind of covered that in your book. You might have a better sense actually of what the vibes are like.
Well, the party is probably less popular, partly because it's much less popular with Democrats. So that's going to drag down its poll numbers.
But could bode well for Dems in
2018,
places like-
Democratic grassroots activists were, right, because they're still voting for the party, even though if you ask them what they think of the party, they're like, it's the worst thing ever.
Well, and they're going to turn
really
out
worse?
for
They're like,
Graham
okay,
Plattner.
Republicans are worse.
Right, those are people that come from
Right.
Graham
Right,
Plattner or
exactly.
Dan
That's why
Osborne.
he's like annihilating
Yeah.
Janet Mills over in Maine because of that exact reason. So just because they have a bad impression of the party I wouldn't count that as a huge kind of handicap to them. If the Democratic Party cared about the U.S., it would probably just dissolve itself. Like its reputation is so toxic and so in the toilet that it's just over. Like, just flush yourself and then let the Osbornes
Rise from the ashes.
Yeah.
But to that point,
It's true, though.
I was just about to make that point on Tallarico. Tallarico's not a revolutionary character. He's not a Plattner. He's not a Zoran Mamdani. He's got no
Let me tell you something. The guy is not my, there's something about him, the style, the launch video put me off, in the back of the pickup truck, and you got the Texas flag in the back of the stage, or whatever. It's not my thing, but I will tell you, there are a lot of progressives that are very excited about this man. Very excited about him. And, I see it.
I think it's because he's
I see
taking
it from our audience. Kyle sees it in his audience because Kyle has the same kind of attitude towards him. there is a lot of genuine excitement, but even more to the point, whether it's him or Jasmine Crockett, and I was just looking at the polling, and some of the recent polls actually do have her up, so I don't know who's going to end up winning the primary. Yeah. But in any case, whichever one it is, the real energy is just we despise Republicans and we think they should be wiped off the face of the earth. Like that's the real energy with the Democratic base right now. And that's how it is typically in midterms, right?
That's true.
Midterms are usually about voting against whatever you're pissed off about, usually the party in power. So I have no doubt that whether it's Crockett or Tallarico, the Dem base excitement, that is a given. Now, who can peel off some of this demo or that demo and this swing voter, that's a different question. But I don't think the Dem enthusiasm in Texas or any other place around the country, that's not going to be an issue for any Democrat.
If it's Tallarico Paxton, I give Tallarico much more of a shot.
I think
Paxton is such a toxic character.
Yeah. They're a great
also
juxtaposition for
so
his
much
argument.
more hated in Texas. Like even Republicans hate.
He's like a bad dude.
No, yeah, he's
genuinely a bad guy.
bad.
Yeah, I mean,
the other thing is, so the Texas Democrats will hate him. A lot of the more moderate, because listen, Texas is one of the last places in America where like the country club Republican like still exists. Like that's literally
Cornyn.
the demographic for
John
John Cornyn.
Cornyn.
The Bush family
the
still
oil,
fanning those
the
flames.
Bush family is still around. Like you've got the oil men and the Houston Gulf. Ask me how I know this. Literally grew up around these people. The Houston oil men. Like Trump. He's a bad talker sometimes, but I like his tax policy. He's really good for the energy.
He's going to take that Ayatollah out.
Yeah, he's going to take the Ayatollah out. It'll be good for business. Like these types of guys still very exist,
Yeah,
right?
that's
So
true.
that demographic will happily vote John Cornyn. It's still a big a lot of evangelicals, a lot of Christians. The thing for Tallarico is that if Paxton gets the nomination, you've got the morality argument against Paxton. You got some of the Democratic base stuff. You got the country club Republican who might sit out because he can't stomach. That could be a perfect storm for like a 1%, 0.5% type victory. But I can't see any scenario. If it's against Cornyn, I don't think I can see it right now.
But this brings us back to the problem that Trump is facing tonight, which is I think the reason that progressives embrace Tallarico heartily, I'll keep my thoughts about him to myself, but he is running on saying it's not left versus right, it's top versus bottom.
Yeah.
And that, I think one of the reasons that progressives love him is he's finally embracing the argument that people like Krystal and Ryan have been making openly for years. And many people in like progressive circles who are actual leftists have been making that argument for a really long time. It's obviously the right argument to make. And he actually is just like openly saying, I love it. And I'm going to do it. I'm going to do the thing, pedal to the metal. But that, again, is where this is a problem for Trump. And actually it would be a problem for Paxton. How anti-establishment are you? If you're MAGA right now, what does that actually mean? Are you against the system or are you the system? Are you the swamp?
That's the whole issue.
I mean, we all agree on that, but like, what does...
Yeah, but I mean, I'm sure you find this way too. This is why I find so many Republican candidates in this cycle so boring. All they're doing is kissing Trump's ass.
I know.
It's like, dude, you don't have a single original thought in your brain. Yeah. Like, you're not even running on
Well,
anything.
it's because we're in this
That's why
litmus
Fishback
test.
is getting so much attention. He's different. That's what.
He's
like,
different,
Look,
yes.
you may not like
Yes,
him,
but that's
but
what
he
we were
is
saying.
different. Like, that's what it's about.
And this is the problem
Yeah.
that conservative media has,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Is
Well, and
that
he's even different from how he was 6 months ago.
Yeah, right.
Or 2 years
6
ago.
weeks
He's
ago.
different. He's different in many respects.
different every day.
But he's different. But I mean, it works, right? It gets
the
media
beauty of
attention.
identity.
He's like dominating this youth vote down in Florida. He's viral clips all over the place. Like that's what it takes. That's why the Democrats can stand out. They don't have a Joe Biden or a Kamala at the top that they have to pay their loyalty to. They can just be like, this is who I am. Screw you.
And yet so many
right?
of them still do.
Yeah, true.
So many of them are still like so reluctant to criticize Biden. It's like, dude, he has like 1 foot in the grave. Like, what are you afraid of at this point?
While we were talking about Jeremy's post that we put up on the CIA acting in tandem with the Pahlavi family, apparently, Abigail Spanberger is giving the Democratic response to the State of the Union, pulled off quite a victory, more than people expected. The margin was more than people expected in your home state, Krystal.
Yeah, it's like 13 points or something crazy.
So in that respect, she's a good choice for State of the Union. In the Tallarico respect, though, she's a bad choice for the State of the Union unless she can mouth the pablum about top versus bottom.
If you're going to pick one of the two governors that won in the most recent election, like Mikey Sherrill would be a better choice.
Agree completely.
Because as people, reminded me, she adopted a lot of the like affordability language and like.
Yeah, Krystal was talking about that. I remember.
So at least
CIA.
she's.
I thought it was a fake.
Spanberger?
I was like, she seems like a corporate cutout, but you were the one telling me. She's like, no, she's actually changed a lot of her campaign rhetoric.
You talking about Spanberger?
No, I'm talking about
Cheryl.
Cheryl.
Yes, she did. But Spanberger, on the other hand, has been a little different in office than I think many of us were expecting. And so
what's she been like? I haven't.
You haven't followed?
No.
So, I mean, Republicans are actually up at arms. They feel like she's like AOC plus Zoran, et cetera. I mean, that's definitely an overstatement. But, she has really made a push in terms of economic issues, pushing, higher minimum wage, labor issues, but specifically, day one, she signed a bunch of executive orders, including saying, hey, we're not going to work with ICE in the state. And has taken a hard line not only on economic issues but also on some cultural issues. So it's been very surprising to me because this is the lady who immediately after 2020 she came out, oh, it's all the left's fault that Trump won and here's all the ways they're terrible and I hate these people and we need to get them out of the party, blah blah blah. That she's former CIA, like that's how she's positioned herself. And so Republicans are very much up at arms. They feel like this was like a bait and switch. She just pretended to be this moderate and then came in and governed like a progressive. I would say she's just, she's a finger in the wind type of politician.
Exactly. That's what
and she's savvy enough to read the mood of where, the base of the party is and where the energy of the country is, right? And so that is how she's governing. She's got a Democratic majority. She's got a Democratic, I think, supermajority in the Senate. She has a lot of legislative power. And they're actually putting it to use in a way that is very unlike Virginia Democrats, who typically do a little bit of tinkering around the edges, but maintain more or less the status quo.
ICE thing doesn't surprise me because in my neighborhood, the stop ICE signs are everywhere. So like rich
Also,
white
she knows
ladies,
where
like
everyone
that
is at
seems
every
to be
moment.
that actually doesn't shock me at all. What would shock me more is some of the economic stuff. But you would still have to update me because as I recall, a lot of the stuff people were upset about or potentially game changing in the legislature from an economic perspective, it was introduced, but I still am like, is it going to pass? Is she going to sign it?
Still a lot of
right?
open.
Like, yeah, there's
she's
like big,
behind a lot of the economic pieces in particular. She's in support of. But I know some of the things that Republicans were most upset about were like, things that some Democrat had said that not necessarily.
Right.
Was
They're like, they've introduced it in the legislature. I'm like, guys, we all know that's fake. Like, is it going to pass? Is it going to get signed? Like, that's the reality.
Yeah. So in any case, I'm kind of interested to hear what she has to say and how she positions herself. Not because I think it's going to be like she's not big on the whole charisma front. That's not really her thing.
How dare you?
But I'm actually curious about the substance of how she thinks is reading the political. The political mood and sort of like messaging to that.
The last thing on that,
thing.
if you think John Favreau, to make John Favreau's point, if you think the State of the Union doesn't matter, I promise you,
Oh,
a
the
rebuttal
response,
to the State of the Union.
Unless
You
you.
don't think Alyssa Scott
No, I will say this.
response was
I still think the
electric?
Rubio thing,
Where he-
that one did matter.
where he-
because
He literally
that
showed.
was
It
crazy.
did.
He
That
literally-
was actually crazy.
Oh no, the
Yeah.
one that really mattered is Bobby Jindal because we never heard from that man again.
So you
that
can-
was
you can,
it.
You can end your career.
You can end your career.
What about
for sure.
Kennedy? Remember Joe? Was it
Joe
Joe
Kennedy
That was a
III.
bad one too. It
So,
was like
yeah,
his
you-
lips were all
That one
slimy.
was, that one's forgettable.
He was like on a factory
Just
floor.
programming note,
Yeah.
Melania just got seated. I think Trump will be there any moment. So the White House, so the Secretary of State and the Secretary of the Treasury are walking in. We can put it up live, guys, if we want to, and I can talk
Yeah.
while this is happening. The Vice President is sitting behind the dais. It looks like the entire cabinet is now all walking in. So just noting that the President will be there.
Good to see who's camped out in the aisles always too, because those people are arguably the most sycophantic.
yeah,
They've
this
waited
is-
for a long time.
Bobby Kennedy just walked into the building. Yeah, we should explain. This is my favorite State of the Union tradition. These people are such narcissists. These congressmen will hang out in the chamber for like 6-7 hours just to sit on the edge right there so they can shake the president's hand momentarily so that people in their district think that they're doing something.
Nice.
This was explained to me specifically about Sheila
Very
It's
Jackson.
like sitting in the front of the
Oh yeah,
class.
Sheila
Yeah,
Jackson.
yeah.
We like that.
I'm gonna take the contrarian take. I think there is something like it sort of harkens back to when there were institutions and dignity.
Really?
And this all meant something. Yeah.
All right.
So
Okay.
I kind of low key support it.
But the people camping out just to be on TV cameras so they can be like shown
To get the
shaking
selfie.
Obama's hand, or the worst now is when they by the way violate House protocol by bringing their phones. I'm just saying, some
Biggest
people should be
nerd on the
some
planet.
should be a stickler for the rules. Should be no phones on the floor.
Violating
Just
House
saying.
protocol.
It is. It's technically against the rules.
It was Sheila
That is
Jackson
not
who
a
did it,
Windsor
right?
now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she's the one who would always
She's
do it.
famous for it.
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
she was the one
R.I.P.
famous for it.
Yeah.
That was her
Tulsi
thing.
Tulsi is walking in. We got Russ.
We got Kid Rock in the house.
Kid Rock is not yet in the building.
We do
He's-
have Erica Kirk in the audience, though. You can
Yeah,
see her.
Erica Kirk is in the audience.
You can
That's
That's
see-
actually just to pause on that, I'm sure you guys all saw Candace is doing some like big documentary on.
What's it called? Bride of?
I'll put
Bride of
documentary
Charlie.
very loosely.
Bride of Charlie.
Bride of Charlie.
The
Yeah,
alternative
again,
working
another
title
like.
was Fatal Attraction, which I think would have been a better title, personally.
I mean, I think Bride of
Yes.
Charlie is pretty clever, but Fatal Attraction definitely goes a little harder in the paint.
Yeah,
No
right.
doubt about it. But I mean, it's just another symbol of the way there has been some fracturing.
Totally.
And
She have a whole documentary crew. How's she like?
She took
mean-
like a week off to produce it. This
AI,
was the whole
baby.
thing.
1 week.
like, how hard
That's
is it?
huge.
That's what
Slap
she
it
was
together.
saying she was going to do.
AI.
I know.
Bride of
Probably,
Charlie.
right? I mean, it definitely helps.
Yeah.
It definitely helps with this. So anyway, I don't know.
Gotta
We'll
watch
see.
this.
So
You know.
I'll watch with interest.
Dems organized a parallel demonstration.
People's State of the
Is it
Union.
on
No,
the Hill?
Ryan, it's
on
the
the mall.
real State of the Union.
It's on the
It's
mall.
not the People's State.
That is the real one.
Oh, okay.
Okay, because I'm seeing,
People
I'm
are sovereign.
seeing.
There's a lot of Democrats. There's actually, 60, 70 Democrats who are not going to attend.
Right. So they're going to speak.
Who are going to this separate
It's
thing.
Joy Reid, and I think Aaron Parnas are
think
leading the people's.
I think the, aren't the
Lev
Midas,
Parnas's
I think
kid.
the Midas Touch
He's big on
people-
TikTok.
Lev Parnas.
I think the Midas Touch people are involved with
Yeah,
this
they're
too.
like streaming it.
Streaming it,
Yeah.
yeah. So there's like it's like an alt media plus Democratic Party. I think there were numbers for who was going to be involved and was boycotting the thing. They're probably just looking for an excuse not to sit through a freaking 3 hours.
I think that's.
I just
yeah.
clocked Steve Witkoff's watch, which is easily worth $100,000 for anybody who's wondering.
Nice. Great.
On Watch Twitter.
Is
Yeah,
it one of those you can't even buy without like an appointment? kind of
No,
thing?
yeah, no, dude, way beyond appointments. Like you can't even buy it. Period.
can't
it has
buy
to be
it.
offered to you. And
Like it's
and-
more
like
expensive.
a
that's-
male
It's more
Birkin.
expensive on the secondary market.
No, it's
kind of thing.
beyond even Birkin. Like we're talking about like the highest levels
This is
of
disgusting.
watch culture.
Well, it makes your coalition very fragile if you are a populist and you're walking around with that type. Like
What happens
Ryan
when you
pointed
lose that
out.
watch? You're
What?
like, I don't.
he's he's like a
even-
billionaire.
You have to
Ryan.
be rich enough that
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
lose the watch or it gets
Right.
stolen, it's
Lost
like,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
what are you
Ryan
gonna
pointed
do,
out the
I guess.
economy.
This is a
was-
$40 watch, by the way, just in case anybody's wondering.
I've got my
Yeah.
Fitbit on.
I like it. I got my fitness tracker and I got my watch. What
Ryan's
else? What else? we
Bare wrists. So Ryan was pointing out the economy felt much better to Americans in Trump's first term as it went on, which again makes populism easier to pull off. If people feel like they have jobs and things are improving, that's very different than, and this gets back to what we were talking about with the like strong supporters slipping, the numbers slipping among strong supporters for Trump. It does actually get a little bit more tenuous when you've stuffed your administration with billionaires. The Epstein saga is ongoing, and you're out there wearing like watches you can't even buy with an appointment.
And the thing you're most fixated on is like war and building a ballroom.
And AI,
You know,
and accelerating AI as fast as possible.
I want to
And
mention
where's
this.
the ballroom?
I don't know what's the latest is with the
Ryan,
ballroom.
don't
building,
bring
like,
it up,
monuments
dude.
to
Let's just
yourself
hope
and
that it goes away.
all
right?
of this.
Let's just hope it fades into non-existence.
But I genuinely think,
Yeah.
you know, the peek into the way power actually works that we've gotten with the Epstein files, I think is also difficult for the right-wing populist narrative because it isn't about trans people or immigrants. It's like, no, it actually is this 0.001% that have no loyalty to anything other than themselves and each other and their money and their power. And they, you know, run around the world doing these deals with each other and feeding each other insider information. And the glue that binds them together are like these sick and depraved acts that they, you know, engage in together and then hold over one another's heads. You know, it's class warfare, and you can see it just very plainly and very nakedly. And then there's Trump, you know, mentioned a million times and having been Epstein's bestie for years and years. So yeah, I think it's going to be tough to sustain your right populist message when that's the reality of what people are seeing and the glimpse that they're getting into the way that power actually works and who the actual problem is in society and why things are structured the way they are.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Maybe a bit reductive, just because it presumes that it only is about immigration or cultural issues. But the point about who the leaders who are in charge, as in literally Lutnick, Trump, and all, is what makes it so glaring and easy for left people to attack. And it's fair. It's true. It's actually true. I mean, these people are literally mentioned in here millions of times. Like, you've had many cases. I don't know if I still have the FDR book. Like, you have scions of the rich and the wealthy who become like great progressive, presidents and architects of the New Deal. So it's not that you have to be of the class to be a class warrior.
Not all plutocrats.
Right, yeah, it's not all plutocrats. Yeah, what did he famously say? He's like, I welcome their hatred, right?
Yeah,
Whenever he's talking
Yeah,
about,
yeah.
about all of his own
right.
like rich compatriots. But I do think the most difficult part is and honestly, it's not even narrative. It's governance plus the imagery of what we see. It's like governance.
It's a combo.
I mean, what did I just say? We're going to call for corporate tax cuts. We're going to talk about why a potential war with Iran is good. We're going to call, it's like just laundry list stuff that could be in any George W. Bush address with a few things tacked on that probably won't happen if we're all honest. Like you can call for credit card interest cap rates. It looks like they're doing the announcement now. The whole
So
president of the United States. Yeah, here he is. He's walking into the building.
Put him in the little
Now,
corner.
if we
thing?
can we put it up here on the screen?
There was one other story that I just want to mention because I think it's so significant, especially since we've been covering AI and all its various threats so frequently, because I think it merits a lot of attention. This fight between Anthropic and the Pentagon is really, really significant. And Anthropic has drawn two very basic red lines. They say, we don't want our product to be used for mass surveillance and for autonomous, no human involved killer robots. And the Pentagon is like,
how dare you?
Unacceptable. Unacceptable. And not only is that unacceptable, we are either going to deem you a supply chain risk, which means none of our suppliers can deal with you at all, or we're going to use the Defense Production Act to seize your thing and use it however we want. So talk about dystopian. They are demanding the use of Claude, which is like the best product for what they want. They're demanding the use of this product so that they can either do mass surveillance or make autonomous killer robots or both.
I was going to say, I think it's the autonomous thing because we covered a lot about.
I think it's both, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
But the Israel angle is important, right? Because what they want is the ability for the robot to be able to identify with no human Like the crazy thing is for Claude is they're like, look, you can kill people, but you just got to have a human.
Just have one human.
Yeah, just have one human who says it's okay.
And Israel used AI, as we reported, to do its targeting in Gaza, and would not have been able to do the mass amount of slaughter without, now they certainly could carpet bomb, but they were trying to do this combination of, this is precision targeting. And so they used AI, and they'd have one person or so that was like, yep, sign off. Like, it didn't slow them down at all. Look at Gaza, completely razed and flattened. Like, you pulled off a genocide. So, like, what is Hegseth complaining about? Like,
I think it's
you
a
can
power
do
thing
Gaza
at this point. I think it's literally just about power, about flexing and saying, no, we're going to literally be able to use it for whatever we want. But it's terrifying.
Maybe think about why they don't want, they understand what they're building better than you do. Like, ask them, why don't you want autonomous armed drones?
He talked about it. Dario Amodei talked about it today, and he said, look, if an illegal order or command is given, or if the targeting is wrong, if you've got a human involved, the human can disobey. If it's all AI, the command is coming, they're going to execute no matter what. And so that was where he drew the line.
Sorry, I was just complaining.
What were you?
I was complaining about
A phone. Yeah,
We've
seen several of them.
It was not
We've
important
seen
at all.
several of them.
You're talking about war and killer robots. Saagar is like, excuse me.
He has a phone, man.
He shouldn't have his phone. His cell phone.
But actually, I
Saagar
think
has equal rage for the autonomous drones
and
killing
the
us all, and
phones.
phones.
It's all
like
part of
war.
the same
This is what
complaint.
you liberals don't understand. It starts with the fucking
Starts with the
phones,
phones.
and this is how we get it.
And then it ends with the
You want
drones.
to talk about class impunity and about
Starts with the phones,
rules and
ends
law
with the
and order?
drones.
This is how it starts.
You won
Yeah.
on the suits
Yeah.
after Fetterman?
Yeah, that's true.
You won that
I was
debate.
right.
So you won
but
that debate.
This is a good metric actually to watch for during the speech is how much he actually addresses AI. Does he lean into it, or does he try to just skirt it, give it a
He's
mention,
going to lean
frame
into it, not just on data centers.
that's
But don't
interesting.
forget, the White House is picking a huge fight right now with Ron
yep.
DeSantis behind the
Yep.
scenes.
No,
you guys cover this on
it's
Thursday.
trickled into the in
Right.
front of everyone.
They're attacking Ron
public.
DeSantis right now, begging him not to do the AI safety order at the state level to try and preempt and stop all state action. So, all right, so the president,
and
he's
the fight
walking
with Utah as well.
right, and the fight with Utah.
How's this old man going to do 3 hours?
John Fetterman in a suit, confirmed.
All right, where is he?
What's he
oh yeah,
talking
he is. He's wearing the suit. I see
wearing
it.
the suit,
It's not a
confirmed.
it's not a good one, but we'll take it.
You can see
No suit on that guy. Throw that man out of the
Jared Kushner.
Throw that gentleman out of there. Jackets are required in the House gallery.
That's steady.
Jackets are required in the House
Steady,
gallery.
boy. I don't like glasses.
There's Mass. Is that Massey right there?
Yep, that's Massey.
see
He's got his vest
Is he with
on.
Roe?
Kana, I didn't see him there. No, maybe
Roe might be done at
Are the Dem
People's-
ladies not doing their outfits again?
Yeah,
What was
there
it last
actually
year?
was some news about that. Hakeem
What?
Jeffries discouraged everybody from doing anything. So.
Hakeem Jeffries is a misogynist.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Why is he
I
telling
thought you were
women how to
gonna say
dress?
It was Mossad, but no.
I
I
mean,
thought you were going with that.
possible.
Maybe.
Possible.
APAC Shakur.
Is that what people call him?
Yeah.
I like that.
Charlemagne coined that.
That's what
Yeah.
Did he really?
It's
Very
pretty
clever.
good. It's
Very
pretty
clever.
good.
Yeah, it looks pretty empty.
Trump's
There's
clapping
a lot of
for
empty seats over
himself.
there
He's
on the
pointing at
Democratic
people.
A
side.
good portion of the Democratic caucus
Come on,
was.
dude. If you're going to do 3 hours, just get to the podium.
I
Yeah,
know.
seriously.
Stop
I can't be
showboating.
having this. Like,
I love
Yeah,
that you
yeah,
think
yeah.
he gives a fuck
9/11,
about
let's
that.
go.
yeah. But it's craziness. All right,
He
it's
doesn't
9.
care.
It's 9/11. Last year, he took the podium at 9:19.
People are so confused, I'm sure, about not being able to hit the 2x.
Oh, right. Yeah,
what
people
is
are watching live.
Oh, it's
That's
I
real.
feel that way.
Like, what's
I
wrong
feel
with
it.
my-
That gentleman
what's wrong
in the
with-
yellow tie has the longest tie I've ever seen. I don't know if
That's
you
the
guys
Trump.
saw that.
That's a Trump length. Trump
Is-
always
who
has a
is
below
that?
belt.
So here's what I tell people: go do something
okay.
else
Here
for
we
an
go.
hour, and then come back.
Members
and
of
No, I
do it.
Congress
disagree.
have the high
There it is.
privilege and
There we
distinct
go.
honor of
All
All right,
right.
guys, we're going to fade out. We'll
President
see you on the
of
other
United
side.
States.
Good luck, everyone.
Maybe not.
Good luck, everyone.
No promise.
No, we'll be back.
Well, thank you very much, everybody. It's really an honor. Speaker Johnson, Vice President Vance, First Lady of the United States. Second Lady of the United States. Members of Congress and my fellow Americans, our nation is back, bigger, better, richer, and stronger than ever before. Less than 5 months from now, our country will celebrate an epic milestone in American history, the 250th anniversary of our glorious American independence. This July 4th, we will mark 2.5 centuries of liberty and triumph, progress and freedom in the most incredible and exceptional nation ever to exist on the face of the earth. And you've seen nothing yet. We're going to do better and better and better. This is the golden age of America. When I last spoke in this chamber 12 months ago, I had just inherited a nation in crisis with a stagnant economy, inflation at record levels, a wide open border, horrendous recruitment for military and police, rampant crime at home, and wars and chaos all over the world. But tonight, after just 1 year, I can say with dignity and pride that we have achieved a transformation like no one has ever seen before, and a turnaround for the ages. It is indeed a turnaround for the ages. And we will never go back to where we were just a very short time ago. We're not going back. Today, our border is secure. Thank you. Today, our border is secure. Our spirit is restored. Inflation is plummeting. Incomes are rising fast. The roaring economy is roaring like never before. And our enemies are scared. Our military and police are stacked. And America is respected again, perhaps like never before. After 4 years in which millions and millions of illegal aliens poured across our borders, totally unvetted and unchecked, we now have the strongest and most secure border in American history by far. In the past 9 months, 0 illegal aliens have been admitted to the United States. But we will always allow people to come in legally, people that will love our country and will work hard to maintain our country. The flow of deadly fentanyl across our border is down by a record 56% in 1 year. And last year, the murder rate saw its single largest decline in recorded history. This is the biggest decline, think of it, in recorded history, the lowest number in over 125 years, year 1900. In fact, substantially before my wonderful father, I had a wonderful father, Fred, before he was born, substantially before he was born. That's a long time ago. He wouldn't like me to say that, but that's a long time ago. The Biden administration and its allies in Congress gave us the worst inflation in the history of our country. But in 12 months, my administration has driven core inflation down to the lowest level in more than 5 years. And in the last 3 months of 2025, it was down to 1.7%. Gasoline, which reached a peak of over $6 a gallon in some states under my predecessor, it was quite honestly a disaster, is now below $2.30 a gallon in most states, and in some places, $1.99 a gallon. And when I visited the great state of Iowa just a few weeks ago, I even saw $1.85 a gallon for gasoline. Mortgage rates are the lowest in 4 years and falling fast, and the annual cost of a typical new mortgage is down almost $5,000 just since I took office. 1 year. And low interest rates will solve the Biden-created housing problem while at the same time protecting the values of those people who already own a house that really feel rich for the first time in their lives. We want to protect those values. We want to keep those values up. We're going to do both. And we are going to keep it that way. The stock market has set 53 all-time record highs since the election. Think of that, 1 year. Boosting pensions, 401ks, and retirement accounts for the millions and millions of Americans. They're all gaining. Everybody's up, way up. In 4 long years, the last administration got less than $1 trillion in new investment in the United States. And when I say less, substantially less. In 12 months, I secured commitments for more than $18 trillion pouring in from all over the globe. Think of it, much less than $1 trillion for 4 years versus much more than $18 trillion for 1 year. What a difference a president makes. A short time ago, we were a dead country. Now we are the hottest country anywhere in the world, the hottest. As thousands of new businesses are forming and factories, plants, and laboratories are being built, we have added 70,000 new construction jobs in just a very short period of time. It's getting bigger and bigger and stronger. Nobody can believe what they're watching. American oil production is up by more than 600,000 barrels a day, and we just received from our new friend and partner, Venezuela, more than 80 million barrels of oil. American natural gas production is at an all-time high because I kept my promise to drill, baby, drill. More Americans are working today than at any time in the history of our country. Think about that. Any time in the history of our country, more working today. And 100% of all jobs created under my administration have been in the private sector. We ended DEI in America. We cut a record number of job-killing regulations, and in 1 year we have lifted 2.4 million Americans, a record, off of food stamps. And for all of these reasons, I say tonight, members of Congress, the state of our union is strong. Our country is winning again. In fact, we're winning so much that we really don't know what to do about it. People are asking me, please, 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 Mr. President, we're winning too much. We can't take it anymore. We're not used to winning in our country. Until you came along, we're just always losing, but now we're winning too much. And I say, no, 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 you're going to win again. You're going to win big. You're going to win bigger than ever. And to prove that point, here with us tonight is a group of winners who just made the entire nation proud. The men's gold medal Olympic hockey team. Come on in. That's the first time I've ever seen them get up. And actually, not all of them did get up. But they beat a fantastic Canadian team in overtime, as everybody saw, as did the American women who will soon be coming to the White House. They were in the Oval Office before, and I just want to say a second very big congratulations to Team USA. But I have to say that, and I told them this, and we took a vote of the team. I said, anybody votes no, I'm not doing it. So they stood there, and they weren't about to say no, because I've never seen a goaltender play as well as goalie Connor Hellebuck. Think of it, 46 shots on goal, and I asked him, the one shot, the one where you put your stick in the back and it hit the neck of your stick and bounced off, do you practice that, or was that a little lucky? He refused to answer that question. But I just want to tell you that the members of this great hockey squad will be very happy to hear, based on their vote and my vote, and in this case my vote was more important, that I will soon be presenting Connor with our highest civilian honor, which we will be given and which has been given to many athletes over the years. But when I say many, not too many, like 12, it's called the highest civilian honor in our country, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Great athletes have gotten that, very great, the best, and I thought he deserved it. And I did take a vote, every single one of them. I said, I'm not giving it if anybody goes no, and every single one of them rapidly put up their hand. So I want to thank you. What a special job you did. What special champions you are. Thank you very much. I'm also pleased to say that the next time the Olympic torch is lit, it will be here in America for the 2028 Olympics, and it's the summer version right in Los Angeles. We're going to do a good job in Los Angeles. And Los Angeles is going to be safe, just like Washington, D.C. is now one of the safest cities in the country. And this year, and I must say I got them both. I got them in my first term, and I was disappointed because I didn't think I'd be the president when this happened. But strange things took place. And now I've got them because I got the Olympics and I got the 2026 FIFA World Cup, and I wanted to claim the 250th, but I didn't get away with that one. I couldn't claim that one for myself. But we're getting the World Cup, so we have the World Cup and the Olympics coming, and that is exciting news. So this will be a year to celebrate our country and the heroes who have kept it free. Men like Buddy Taggart. At age 17, Buddy volunteered to defend America in World War II, serving in the Pacific under the great General Douglas MacArthur. He fought bravely in the famous Battle of Manila, worked so hard. He was badly wounded and almost killed by enemy machine guns in Luzon. And 81 years ago this month, he liberated the largest internment camp in the Philippines, one of the largest anywhere in the world. But he earned many honors, including a Purple Heart and a Bronze Star, came home, started a family, and tonight he is in the gallery looking forward to July 4th, 2026, his 100th birthday. So, Buddy, you're a brave man, and we salute you. Even in times of challenge, setback, and immense heartache, the spirit of 1776 has always shone through very brightly. It was July 4th of last year when floodwaters tore through a girls' summer camp in Central Texas, one of the worst things I've ever seen. I was there, rising 26 feet in the matter of minutes, tragically claiming many, many lives. You all remember that one. As the waters threatened to sweep her away, 11-year-old Millie Kate McClelland closed her eyes and prayed to God. She thought she was going to die. Those prayers were answered when Coast Guard rescue swimmer Scott Ruskin descended from a helicopter above. Nobody knew where he came from. It was Scott's first ever rescue mission, a young guy, but very brave, very, very top, always top in his class. And he lifted not just Millie Kate, but 164 others to safety. People watched Scott from a distance, and they couldn't believe what they were seeing. The winds were blowing, the rain was pouring, everything was going, and that rapid water, nobody's ever seen anything like it. They said, wow, that's something. Tonight, Scott and Millie Kate are here together, reunited for the very first time. Thank you, Scott, Millie Kate. And Petty Officer Ruskin, I'm pleased to inform you that I am now awarding you the Legion of Merit for extraordinary heroism, which is what it was, extraordinary heroism. Thank you. And I'd like to have the military aide to please come down and take care of the service. Military aide, thank you very much. Take care of that very important service. Thank you very much. From 1776 to today, every generation of Americans has stepped forward to defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And they're really doing it for the next generation. But now it's our turn. Together we're building a nation where every child has the chance to reach higher and go further, where government answers to the people, not the powerful, and where the interests of hardworking American citizens are always our first and ultimate concern. That is the debt we owe to the heroes who came before us, and that is the promise we must keep to America for our 250th year. Last year, I urged this Congress to begin the mission by passing the largest tax cuts in American history, and our Republican majorities delivered so beautifully. Thank you, Republicans. All Democrats, every single one of them, voted against these really important and very necessary massive tax cuts. They wanted large-scale tax increases to hurt the people instead. But we held strong, and with the great, big, beautiful bill, we gave you no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security for our great seniors. And we also made interest on auto loans tax deductible the first time, but only if the car is made in America. Recently in Pennsylvania, I met Megan Hemhauser, a devoted mom who's homeschools her children, beautiful, 2 children, during the day while waiting tables at night as her husband works overtime operating very heavy equipment. Megan is here this evening, and she's happy to tell you that she is so much richer because with no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and our expanded child tax credit done again by Republicans, Megan and her husband will take home more than $5,000 extra just for the year, cutting her tax bill in more than half. Megan, please stand up. We're fighting for you, Megan. Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Megan. We're fighting for you, Megan. Under our bill, parents like Megan can also activate their children's brand new Trump accounts. And I didn't name it. I did not name it. I did not name that. Nobody believes me, but I did not name it. It was named by a very tall man sitting right there in the third row. Nice man, a good man. Tax-free investment accounts for every American child. This is something that's so special and has taken off and gone through the roof. Millions will be pre-funded courtesy of the U.S. Treasury and private individuals like Michael and Susan Dell, who have donated $6.25 billion to fund the Trump accounts for 25 million American children. They're great people. You know, I asked Michael Dell, how do you make all that money? He said, well, I just sat on my dorm in school, and I made computers, and I'd sell them to people, and I just kept selling and selling and selling, and pretty amazing story. That's called the American dream. He sold a lot of computers, a lot of those laptops, so I congratulate him on that, but I really thank him and Susan, as well as others like Brad Gerstner, a very tremendous guy. He was behind it right from the beginning. Brad Gerstner, thank you, Brad. So with modest additional contributions, these young people's accounts could grow to over $100,000 or more by the time they turn 18. Think of it. How much money is that for somebody that started with nothing? Over 100,000, could be much more than that. To make this investment in our children's future, go to trumpaccounts.gov, trumpaccounts.gov. And a lot of people are doing it. They're setting every record in the book. It's popular. They knew what it was going to take. I'm so proud of them. I'm so proud of the people that got it started. And now it's just taken off. One of the primary reasons for our country's stunning economic turnaround, the biggest in history, where the Dow Jones broke 50,000 4 years ahead of schedule, and the S&P hit 7,000, where it wasn't supposed to do it for many years, were tariffs. I used these tariffs, took in hundreds of billions of dollars to make great deals for our country, both economically and on a national security basis. Everything was working well. Countries that were ripping us off for decades are now paying us hundreds of billions of dollars. They were ripping us so badly, you all know that. Everybody knows it. Even the Democrats know it. They just don't want to say it. And yet these countries are now happy, and so are we. We made deals. The deals are all done. And they're happy. They're not making money like they used to, but we're making a lot of money. There was no inflation, tremendous growth, and the big story was how Donald Trump called the economy correctly, and 22 Nobel Prize winners in economics didn't. They got it totally wrong. They got it really wrong. And then just 4 days ago, an unfortunate ruling from the United States Supreme Court. It just came down. It came down. Very unfortunate ruling. But the good news is that almost all countries and corporations want to keep the deal that they already made, right, Scott? Knowing that the legal power that I, as president, have to make a new deal could be far worse for them, and therefore they will continue to work along the same successful path that we had negotiated before the Supreme Court's unfortunate involvement. So despite the disappointing ruling, these powerful country-saving, it's saving our country, the kind of money we're taking in, peace-protecting. Many of the wars I settled was because of the threat of tariffs. I wouldn't have been able to settle them without. Will remain in place under fully approved and tested alternative legal statutes. And they have been tested for a long time. They're a little more complex, but they're actually probably better, leading to a solution that will be even stronger than before. Congressional action will not be necessary. It's already time-tested and approved. And as time goes by, I believe the tariffs paid for by foreign countries will, like in the past, substantially replace the modern-day system of income tax, taking a great financial burden off the people that I love. Right? Moving forward, factories, jobs, investment, and trillions of dollars will continue pouring into the United States of America because we finally have a president who puts America first. I put America first. I love America. For decades before I came along, we had the exact opposite. From trade to healthcare, from energy to immigration, everything was stolen and rigged in order to drain the wealth out of the productive, hardworking people who make our country great, who make our country run. Under Biden and his corrupt partners in Congress and beyond, it reached a breaking point with the Green New scam, open borders for everyone. They poured in by the millions and millions from prisons, from mental institutions. They were murderers, 11,888 murders. They came into our country. You allowed that to happen. And record-setting inflation that cost the typical family $34,000 in just a speck of time. Now the same people in this chamber who voted for those disasters suddenly used the word affordability, a word they just used it. Somebody gave it to them, knowing full well that they caused and created the increased prices that all of our citizens had to endure. You caused that problem. You caused that problem. They knew their statements were a lie. They knew it. They knew their statements were a dirty, rotten lie. Their policies created the high prices. Our policies are rapidly ending them. We are doing really well. Those prices are plummeting downward. The price of eggs is down 60%, Madam Secretary. Thank you. The cost of chicken, butter, fruit, hotels, automobiles, rent is lower today than when I took office by a lot. And even beef, which was very high, is starting to come down significantly. Just hold on a little while. We're getting it down. And soon you will see numbers that few people would think were possible to achieve just a short time ago. Nobody can believe when they see the kind of numbers, and especially energy, when they see energy going down to numbers like that, they cannot believe it. It's like another big tax cut. I'm also confronting one of the biggest ripoffs of our times, the crushing cost of health care caused by you. Since the passage of the Unaffordable Care Act, sometimes referred to as Obamacare, big insurance companies have gotten rich. It was meant for the insurance companies, not for the people. With our government giving them hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars a year as their stock prices soared 1,000, 1,200, 1,400, and even 1,700%, like nothing else. That's why I introduced the great health care plan. I want to stop all payments to big insurance companies and instead give that money directly to the people so they can buy their own health care, which will be better health care at a much lower cost. In addition, my plan requires maximum price transparency. That's a big deal. Sounds so simple, so big. And I did that in my first term, and the Democrats immediately terminated it with full knowledge that they were doing a very bad thing for the people. Costs were going to go way up, and that's what happened, and now I'm bringing them way down on health care and everything else. I'm also ending the wildly inflated cost of prescription drugs like has never happened before. Other presidents tried to do it, but they never could. They tried. Most didn't try, actually. But they tried. They said they tried. They couldn't do it. They didn't even come close. They were all talk and no action, but I got it done. Under my just enacted most favored nation agreements, Americans who have for decades paid by far the highest prices of any nation anywhere in the world for prescription drugs will now pay the lowest price anywhere in the world for drugs. Anywhere, the lowest price. So in my first year of the second term, should be my third term, but strange things happen. I took prescription drugs, a very big part of health care, from the highest price in the entire world to the lowest. That's a big achievement. The result is price differences of 300, 400, 500, 600% and more, all available right now at a new website called TrumpRx.gov. And I didn't name that one either, by the way. And here tonight is the very first customer ever to get that big discount, and it is big, Catherine Rayner. For 5 years, she and her husband have struggled with infertility, and they turned to IVF. One drug has been costing Catherine $4,000 to purchase. But a few weeks ago, she logged onto the Trump RX website and got that same drug that cost $4,000, got it for under $500, a reduction of much more, actually, than $3,500. Catherine, we are all praying for you, and you're going to be a great mom. So now I'm calling on Congress to codify my most favored nation program into law. Now, the one thing, I'm not sure it matters because it's going to be very hard for somebody that comes along after me to say, let's raise drug prices by 700 or 800%. But John and Mike, if you don't mind, codify it anyway. They may do it. Codify it anyway. Thank you. Many Americans are also concerned that energy demand from AI data centers could unfairly drive up their electric utility bills. Tonight, I'm pleased to announce that I have negotiated the new Ratepayer Protection Pledge. You know what that is? We're telling the major tech companies that they have the obligation to provide for their own power needs. They can build their own power plants as part of their factory so that no one's prices will go up. And in many cases, prices of electricity will go down for the community, and very substantially down. This is a unique strategy never used in this country before. We have an old grid. It could never handle the kind of numbers, the amount of electricity that's needed. So I'm telling them they can build their own plant. They're going to produce their own electricity. It will ensure the company's ability to get electricity while at the same time lowering prices of electricity for you, and could be very substantial for all of you cities and towns. You're going to see some good things happen over the next number of years. Another pillar of the American dream that has been under attack is home ownership. With us tonight is Krystal Wiggins, a mom of 2 from Houston. She placed bids on 20 homes and lost all of those bids to gigantic investment firms that bypassed inspection, paid all cash, and turned those houses into rentals, stealing away her American dream. She was devastated. Stories like this are why last month I signed executive order to ban large Wall Street investment firms from buying up in the thousands single-family homes. And now I'm asking Congress to make that ban permanent, because homes for people, really, that's what we want. We want homes for people, not for corporations. Corporations are doing just fine. Krystal, thank you very much. Good luck with your home. You'll get one soon. We're also working to make it easier for Americans to save for retirement. And under this administration, we will always protect Social Security and Medicare. They are not protecting it for our seniors. We will always protect Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. Since I took office, the typical 401k balance is up by at least $30,000. That's a lot of money. We have millions and millions of people, because the stock market has done so well, setting all those records. Your 401ks are way up. Yet half of all of working Americans still do not have access to a retirement plan with matching contributions from an employer. To remedy this gross disparity, I'm announcing that next year my administration will give these often forgotten American workers, great people, the people that built our country, access to the same type of retirement plan offered to every federal worker. We will match your contribution with up to $1,000 each year. As we ensure that all Americans can profit from a rising stock market, let's also ensure that members of Congress cannot corruptly profit from using insider information. They stood up for that. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. Did Nancy Pelosi stand up if she's here? Doubt it. Pass the Stop Insider Trading Act without delay. I wasn't sure if anybody even on this side was going to applaud for that. I'm very impressed. Thank you. I'm very impressed. But when it comes to the corruption that is plundering, it's plundering America. There's been no more stunning example than Minnesota, where members of the Somali community have pillaged an estimated $19 billion from the American taxpayer. Oh, we have all the information. And in actuality, the number is much higher than that. And California, Massachusetts, Maine, and many other states are even worse. This is the kind of corruption that shreds the fabric of a nation, and we are working on it like you wouldn't believe. So tonight, although started 4 months ago, I am officially announcing the war on fraud to be led by our great Vice President, J.D. Vance. He'll get it done. If we're able to find enough of that fraud, we will actually have a balanced budget overnight. It'll go very quickly. That's the kind of money you're talking about. We'll balance our budget. The Somali pirates who ransacked Minnesota remind us that there are large parts of the world where corruption and lawlessness are the norm, not the exception. Importing these cultures through unrestricted immigration and open borders brings those problems right here to the USA. And it is the American people who pay the price in higher medical bills, car insurance rates, rent, taxes, and perhaps most importantly, crime. We will take care of this problem. We're going to take care of this problem. We are not playing games. Delilah. Delilah Coleman was only 5 years old in June 2024 when a 18-wheel tractor trailer plowed into her stopped car traveling at 60 miles an hour or more. The driver was an illegal alien let in by Joe Biden and given a commercial driver's license by open borders politicians in California. Doctors said Delilah would never be able to walk or talk, have a good life. She wouldn't even be able to eat again. But against all odds, she is now in the first grade learning to walk. And she's here this evening with her dad, Marcus, a fantastic man. Delilah, please, you are a great inspiration. Please stand up. Thank you, Delilah. Many, if not most, illegal aliens do not speak English and cannot read even the most basic road signs as to direction, speed, danger, or location. That's why tonight I'm calling on Congress to pass what we will call the Delilah Law, barring any state from granting commercial driver's licenses to illegal aliens. And yesterday, as you probably saw at the White House, I hosted a ceremony with Americans who lost their treasured loved ones to the scourge of illegal immigration. People came into our country, how we allowed this to happen with our open borders. These are the angel moms and families that for decades our government betrayed and our media totally ignored. It was terrible. Hard to believe, actually. In 2023, a 16-year-old high school cheerleader named Elizabeth Medina was supposed to perform in her town's Christmas parade, but she never arrived. Her mother, Jacqueline, went home to look for her, and she found her lying dead in a bathtub, bleeding profusely after being stabbed 25 times. Elizabeth's killer was a previously arrested illegal alien who had broken in and brutally extinguished the brightest light in her family's life, violently and viciously. Her heartbroken mother is in the gallery to remind everyone in this chamber exactly why we are deporting illegal alien criminals to our country at record numbers, and we're getting them the hell out of here fast. We don't want them. Thank you very much, Jacqueline. Thank you. We can never forget that many in this room not only allowed the border invasion to happen before I got involved, but indeed they would do it all over again if they ever had the chance. If they ever got elected, they would open up those borders to some of the worst criminals anywhere in the world. The only thing standing between Americans and a wide open border right now is President Donald J. Trump and our great Republican patriots in Congress. Thank you. Thank you. As we speak, Democrats in this chamber have cut off all funding for the Department of Homeland Security. It's all cut off. It's all cut off. They have instituted another Democrat shutdown, the first one costing us 2 points on GDP. 2 points we lost on GDP, which probably made them quite happy, actually. Now they have closed the agency responsible for protecting Americans from terrorists and murderers. Tonight I'm demanding the full and immediate restoration of all funding for the border security, homeland security of the United States, and also for helping people clean up their snow. We have no money because of the Democrats, and it would be nice. We'd love to give you a hand at cleaning it up, but you gave no money. Nobody's getting paid. It's a shame. So you have to think about it. We have, in case you didn't know, a pretty large snowstorm out there. One of the great things about the State of the Union is how it gives Americans the chance to see clearly what their representatives really believe. So tonight I'm inviting every legislator to join with my administration in reaffirming a fundamental principle. If you agree with this statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens. Isn't that a shame? You should be ashamed of yourself not standing up. You should be ashamed of yourself. That is why I'm also asking you to end deadly sanctuary cities that protect the criminals and enact serious penalties for public officials who block the removal of criminal aliens. In many cases, drug lords, murderers all over our country, they're blocking the removal of these people out of our country, and you should be ashamed of yourself. And perhaps most importantly, I'm asking you to approve the Save America Act. To stop illegal aliens and others who are unpermitted persons from voting in our sacred American elections. That cheating is rampant in our elections. It's rampant. It's very simple. All voters must show voter ID. All voters must show proof of citizenship in order to vote. And no more crooked mail-in ballots except for illness, disability, military, or travel. None. And this should be an easy one. And by the way, it's polling at 89%, including Democrats. 89%. And even the new communist mayor of New York City, I think he's a nice guy, actually. Speak to him a lot. Bad policy, but nice guy. Just said they want people to shovel snow. They got hit hard. Wants them to shovel snow, but if you apply for that job, you need to show 2 original forms of ID and a Social Security card. Yet they don't want identification for the greatest privilege of them all, voting in America. No, it's no good. No good. Both Republicans and Democrats overwhelmingly agree on the policy that we just enunciated. And Congress should unite and enact this common sense, country-saving legislation right now, and it should be before anything else happens. And the reason they don't want to do it, why would anybody not want voter ID? One reason, because they want to cheat. There's only one reason. They make up all excuses. They say it's racist. They come up with things you almost say, what imagination they have. They want to cheat. They have cheated. And their policy is so bad that the only way they can get elected is to cheat. And we're going to stop it. We have to stop it, John. And here is one more opportunity to show common sense in government. In the gallery tonight are Sage Blair and her mother, Michelle. In 2021, Sage was 14 when school officials in Virginia sought to socially transition her to a new gender, treating her as a boy and hiding it from her parents. Hard to believe, isn't it? Before long, a confused Sage ran away from home after she was found in a horrific situation in Maryland A left-wing judge refused to return Sage to her parents because they did not immediately state that their daughter was their son. Sage was thrown into an all-boys state home and suffered terribly for a long time. But today, all of that is behind them because Sage is a proud and wonderful young woman with a full-ride scholarship to Liberty University. Sage and Michelle, please stand up. And thank you for your great bravery. And who can believe that we're even speaking about things like this? 15 years ago, if somebody was up here and said that, they'd say, what's wrong with him? But now we have to say it because it's going on all over numerous states without even telling the parents. But surely we can all agree no state can be allowed to rip children from their parents' arms and transition them to a new gender against the parents' will. Who would believe that we're even talking about this? We must ban it, and we must ban it immediately. Look, nobody stands up. These people are crazy, I'm telling you. They're crazy. Amazing, incredible. Boy, oh boy. We're lucky we have a country. With people like this, Democrats are destroying our country, but we've stopped it just in the nick of time, didn't we? Huh? No one cares more about protecting America's youth than our wonderful First Lady, now a movie star. She's a movie star. Can you believe it? Who would have believed that? Over the past year, she has had an incredible impact championing AI legislation, advancing a landmark executive order on foster care, and helping secure $30 million to launch the Melania Trump Foster Youth to Independence Initiative. It's a tremendous, really a tremendous thing that happened and had a lot of bipartisan support. She gets much better bipartisan support than I do. I get none. She gets a lot. Someday you're going to have to tell me how you did that. And students and educators in every state have joined the First Lady's efforts in the presidential AI challenge, keeping America's next generation positioned to succeed and strongly succeed in the future. Tonight, we welcome two young people whose lives reflect the First Lady's impact, Sierra Burns and Everest Nevermont. Thank you both, and Melania, thank you. I know how hard you worked on it. Thank you very much. I'm very proud to say that during my time in office, both the first 4 years and in particular this last year, there has been a tremendous renewal in religion, faith, Christianity, and belief in God. Tremendous renewal. This is especially true among young people, and a big part of that had to do with my great friend, Charlie Kirk, a great guy, great man. So last year, Charlie was violently murdered by an assassin and martyred, really martyred for his beliefs. His wonderful wife, Erica, is with us tonight. Erica, please stand. Thank you, Erica. Been through a lot. In Charlie's memory, we must all come together to reaffirm that America is one nation under God, and we must totally reject political violence of any kind. We love religion, and we love bringing it back, and it's coming back at levels that nobody actually thought possible. It's really a beautiful thing to see. Above all, unleashing America's promise requires keeping our communities safe. We have made incredible strides, yet dangerous repeat offenders continue to be released by pro-crime Democrat politicians again and again. We are honored to be joined tonight by a woman who's been through hell, Anya Zarutska. In 2022, she and her beautiful daughter, so beautiful, what a beautiful young woman, Irina, fled war-torn Ukraine to live with relatives near Charlotte, North Carolina. And by the way, what's going on with Charlotte? Last summer, 23-year-old Irina was riding home on the train when a deranged monster who had been arrested over a dozen times and was released through no cash bail, stood up and viciously slashed a knife through her neck and body. No one will ever forget, there were people on that train. No one will ever forget the expression of terror on Irina's face as she looked up at her attacker in the last seconds of her life. She died instantly. She had escaped a brutal war only to be slain by a hardened criminal set free to kill in America, came in through open borders. Mrs. Zarutska, tonight I promise you we will ensure justice for your magnificent daughter, Irina. How do you not stand? How do you not stand? I'm asking this Congress to pass tough legislation to ensure that violent and dangerous repeat offenders are put behind bars, and importantly, that they stay there. Starting last summer, I deployed our National Guard and federal law enforcement to restore law and order to our most dangerous cities, including Memphis, Tennessee, big success, New Orleans, Louisiana, big success, and our nation's capital itself, Washington, D.C., where we have almost no crime anymore in Washington, D.C. How did that happen? In fact, crime in Washington is now at the lowest level ever recorded, and murders in D.C. this January were down close to 100% from a year ago. They don't like to hear that. One of the sick people, one of the brave service members who helped achieve this stunning turnaround was 20-year-old West Virginia Army National Guard Specialist Sarah Beckstrom. After a 4-month deployment, she voluntarily extended her service, and her rank was going to be lifted. She was doing so well. They were so proud of her. But the very next day, she was on patrol near the White House when she was ambushed and shot in the head by a terrorist monster from Afghanistan. Shouldn't have been in our country. And all because she wore the uniform of our nation, she was shot. He traveled here because he didn't like people wearing our uniform. He was sick and deranged, shouldn't have been in our country. Sarah Beckstrom died in order to defend our capital, and we are honored to be joined by her wonderful parents, Gary and Evalie. Your daughter was a true American patriot, and she will be greatly missed. She was a great person. I saw reports on her. They've never seen anything like it. So sorry. Thank you very much. She's a great young lady. I saw reports that were like, perfect. She was perfect. Serving alongside Sarah that day was Staff Sergeant Andrew Wolf. The terrorist shot Andrew in the head, and no one thought he could possibly make it. The two of them, Sarah and Andrew, both shot violently in the head. Neither was expected to make it. They weren't even given a chance, except his wonderful mother, named Melody, who I spoke to the same night, and she was so positive. The doctors thought that Andrew was gone, but his mother said, no, Mr. President, Andrew will be fine. He's going to make it. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, he was given almost no chance. She said, I have no doubt, sir, he's going to be okay. This was a conversation that I had with her that night, with her son laying helplessly in bed, blood all over. Everybody is praying, she said, sir, he will be okay. The doctors didn't understand what she was saying, and after looking at the results of the damage done, neither did I. She was so strong and conclusive that even Andrew's great father felt she didn't really understand the gravity of the situation. But she turned out to be right. Right, Melody? She turned out to be right. Amazing, actually. I said, where does this woman come from? She's the most positive person I've ever met. With God's help, Andrew has battled back from the edge of death, and we're talking about the edge of death, on his way to a miraculous recovery. He's got a little work to do, but he's doing great. Nice to see you. He's a good-looking guy. Nice to see you. Thanks, Andrew. Thank you very much. So, Andrew, while you're up, now I'm going to ask a highly respected General James Seward to present Staff Sergeant Andrew Wolf and the great family of Sarah Beckstrom with the award created by our late, great President George Washington himself. It's called the Purple Heart. We love you all. Love you. We're proudly restoring safety for Americans at home, and we are also restoring security for Americans abroad. Our country has never been stronger. My first 10 months, I ended 8 wars, including Cambodia. Isn't it funny? Sick people. Cambodia and Thailand, Pakistan and India. Would have been a nuclear war. 35 million people said the Prime Minister of Pakistan would have died if it were not for my involvement. Kosovo and Serbia, Israel and Iran, Egypt and Ethiopia, Armenia and Azerbaijan, the Congo and Rwanda, and of course the war in Gaza, which proceeds at a very low level. It's just about there. And I want to thank Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner for your help. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Jared. And I also want to thank the man they report to, Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Thank you, Marco. People like you. You know, Marco got 100% of the votes when he was in confirmation. I think our next one was about 54%. And some of the Democrats are now saying, I can't believe we approved that guy. And he said it's an honor that they feel that way, right, Marco? You have done a great job, great Secretary of State. I think he'll go down as the best ever. Under the ceasefire I negotiated, every single hostage, both living and dead, has been returned home. Can you believe that? Nobody thought it was possible. Nobody thought that was possible. Both living and dead. And those parents who had a dead son, their boy, they'd always tell me their boy, they wanted him as much as though he were living. It was an amazing period of time. And they came back, and when we got all of the living hostages back, and many, many before them, but I always said those last 20 are going to be very tough, but we got many, many more, hundreds. But I said those last 20 are going to be tough. We got them back. But we only got back 14 or 15 of the dead of the 28. And believe it or not, Hamas worked along with Israel, and they dug and they dug and they dug. It's a tough thing to do, going through bodies all over, passing up 100 bodies sometimes for each one that they found. Tough job. And they finally got it back to 27. And then Steve and Jared, they got it back to 28. They found all 28. Nobody thought that was possible, but we did it. And I remember the family of the 28th. They were so grieved, but they were so happy as it's possible to be. They had their boy back. The mother said, "Sir, we have our boy back." What a period of time that was, but we got them all back. So thank you both very much. Great job. And we're working very hard to end the 9th war, the killing and slaughter between Russia and Ukraine, where 25,000 soldiers are dying each and every month. Think of that, 25,000 soldiers are dying a month. A war which would have never happened if I were president, would have never happened. As president, I will make peace wherever I can, but I will never hesitate to confront threats to America wherever we must. That's why in a breakthrough operation last June, the United States military obliterated Iran's nuclear weapons program with an attack on Iranian soil known as Operation Midnight Hammer. Good. For decades, it had been the policy of the United States never to allow Iran to obtain a nuclear weapon. Many decades. Since they seized control of that proud nation 47 years ago, the regime and its murderous proxies have spread nothing but terrorism and death and hate. They've killed and maimed thousands of American service members and hundreds of thousands and even millions of people with what's called roadside bombs. They were the kings of the roadside bomb. And we took out Soleimani. I did that during my first term. Had a huge impact. He was the father of the roadside bomb. And just over the last couple of months with the protests, they've killed at least, it looks like 32,000 protesters. 32,000 protesters in their own country. They shot them and hung them. We stopped them from hanging a lot of them with the threat of serious violence. But this is some terrible people. They've already developed missiles that can threaten Europe and our bases overseas, and they're working to build missiles that will soon reach the United States of America. After Midnight Hammer, they were warned to make no future attempts to rebuild their weapons program, and in particular, nuclear weapons. Yet they continue. They're starting it all over. We wiped it out, and they want to start all over again, and are at this moment again pursuing their sinister ambitions. We are in negotiations with them. They want to make a deal, but we haven't heard those secret words. We will never have a nuclear weapon. My preference is to solve this problem through diplomacy. But one thing is certain, I will never allow the world's #1 sponsor of terror, which they are by far, to have a nuclear weapon. Can't let that happen. And no nation should ever doubt America's resolve. We have the most powerful military on earth. I rebuilt the military in my first term. We're going to continue to do so. Also, we just approved a $1 trillion budget. We have no choice. We have to be strong because hopefully we will seldom have to use this great power that we built together. It's really called peace through strength, and it's been very, very effective. So thanks to Republicans in Congress, we're investing that record number of dollars, have no choice, in the United States Armed Forces. Also creating a lot of jobs, but we're not even doing it for that reason. Because as I said, we have more jobs, more people working today than ever before in the history of our country. And NATO countries are friends and allies. They are. They're our friends and they're our allies. Have just agreed at my very strong request to pay 5% of GDP for military defense rather than the 2%, which they weren't paying. We were paying for almost all of NATO. Now they're paying 5 as opposed to not paying 2. And getting that 5% was something which everyone said would never be done, could not happen. We got it really easily with one meeting. And big difference between 2% that's not paid. We were paying the freight of many of them. Very few were paid up. Now 5%, then they're paid. And everything we send over to Ukraine is sent through NATO, and they pay us in full. They pay us totally in full. Every branch of our armed forces is setting records for recruitment. This is so exciting. And every service member recently. And every service member recently received a warrior dividend of $1,776. You know, they put it on my desk. We got the money from tariffs and other things, a lot of money we have. We have much more money than people understand. Have to rebuild that program a little bit, but it won't take long. But we got the money, and it was $1,775, and they wanted my approval. And I said, what's the number? $1,775. I said, wait a minute. For one more dollar, we can have $1,776. It's going to I said, we're going to figure that. I never asked anybody if we could afford it. One more dollar, I said $1,776. And I said, that's good. And I'll tell you what, our military, that was 4 months ago, our military, I never see a person in the military that doesn't thank me for it, so we're honored to do it. They deserve it. And we call it 1776. It was great. And we love our military. We love our law enforcement. We love our firemen. You know, the firemen don't get mentioned enough. We love our firemen. We're also... We're also restoring American security and dominance in the Western Hemisphere, acting to secure our national interests and defend our country from violence, drugs, terrorism, and foreign interference. For years, large swaths of territory in our region, including large parts of Mexico, really large parts of Mexico, have been controlled by murderous drug cartels. That's why I designated these cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, and I declared illicit fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction. And with our new military campaign, we have stopped record amounts of drugs coming into our country and virtually stopped it completely coming in by water or sea. You probably noticed that. We very seriously damaged their fishing industry also. Nobody wants to go fishing anymore. We've also taken down one of the most sinister cartel kingpins of all. You saw that yesterday. In January, elite American warriors carried out one of the most complex, spectacular feats of military competence and power in world history. No one's seen anything like it. Foreign leaders, I won't tell you who, called me and they said, very impressive, very good. They couldn't believe, they all watched, they saw what happened. This is a different fighting force that we had years ago when we fought to tie. You know, it's a great fighting force. I'm so proud of it. Look at Space Force. Space Force is my baby, because we did that. My baby, it's becoming so important. And America's armed forces overwhelmed all defenses and utterly defeated an enemy, good fighters, to end the reign of outlaw dictator Nicolas Maduro and bring him to face American justice. And this was an absolutely colossal victory for the security of the United States, and it also opens up a bright new beginning for the people of Venezuela. We're working closely with the new president of Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez, to unleash extraordinary economic gains for both of our countries and to bring new hope to those who have suffered so terribly. They really did suffer. With us tonight is Alejandro Gonzalez. She grew up in a tight-knit Venezuelan family and was especially close to her beloved uncle Enrique. But after Enrique ran for office and opposed Maduro, he was kidnapped by Maduro's security forces and thrown into the regime's really infamous prison in Caracas. Alejandro feared she would never see her uncle again. She feared for her own life also. But since the raid, we have worked with the new leadership, and they have ordered the closure of that vile prison and released hundreds of political prisoners already, with more to come. Alejandro, I'm pleased to inform you that not only has your uncle been released, but he is here tonight. We brought him over to celebrate his freedom with you in person. Enrique, please come down. Thank you, Enrique. Have a good time. Nice to have you back, Enrique. There were many heroes on that January raid to capture Maduro, really great heroes. It was very dangerous. They knew we were coming. They were all set. But the deeds of one warrior that night will live forever in the eternal chronicles of military valor. Chief Warrant Officer 5, Eric Slover, planned the mission and was the flight lead in the cockpit of the first helicopter, a big, beautiful, powerful helicopter. It was a massive Chinook carrying, as you can imagine, many, many American warfighters. Wearing the dog tags, his wife Amy had blessed with holy water before he left. She knew it was going to be a rough one. Eric steered the Chinook under the cover of night and descended swiftly upon Maduro's heavily protected military fortress. This was a major military installation, protected by thousands of soldiers and guarded by Russian and Chinese military technology. How did that work out? Not too good. While preparing to land, enemy machine guns fired from every angle, and Eric was hit very badly in the leg and hip, one bullet after another. He absorbed 4 agonizing shots, shredding his leg into numerous pieces. And yet, despite the fact that the use of his legs was vital to successful helicopter flight, legs are the most important part of flying a helicopter, to deliver the many commandos who would capture and detain Maduro was the only thing Eric was thinking about. Then, even as he was gushing blood, which was flowing back down the aisle, helicopter lands at a steep angle. The machine gun stood right in front of him. They were right in front of him, 2 machine gunners who escaped the wrath of the previous planes. Eric maneuvered his helicopter with all of those lives and souls to face the enemy and let his gunners eliminate the threat. Turned the helicopter around so the gunners could take care of business, saving the lives of his fellow warriors from what could have been a catastrophic crash deep in enemy territory. Only after safely landing the helicopter with all the warriors aboard in the exact right spot, which was vital to the mission. We probably would have had to maybe cancel the mission if that didn't happen. Eric told his co-pilot, also wounded, but not as gravely, to take over. I'm about ready to pass out. The success of the entire mission and the lives of his fellow warriors hinge on Eric's ability to take the searing pain. It was unbelievable what's happened to his legs of the bullets and keep on flying and landing and People knew what was happening. Everybody in the back of the helicopter knew because they saw the blood pouring down the aisle. Chief Warrant Officer Slover is still recovering from his serious wounds, but I'm thrilled to say that he is here tonight with his wife, Amy, Eric, and Amy. Come on in. So we have a surprise for Eric and Amy. In recognition of Eric's actions above and beyond the call of duty, I would now like to ask General Jonathan Braga to present Chief Warrant Officer Slover with our nation's highest military award, the Congressional Medal of Honor. Well, thank you very much, Eric and Amy. Great to get to know you. I met with them and with a lot of their fellow warriors at Fort Bragg recently. You notice the name Fort Bragg, we have it back, we brought it back. We won the First World War with it, the Second World War with it, and then they decided to change the name. So we changed it back. Everybody wanted to change back too. And 10 of Eric's fellow warriors from that incredible night of victory will also be receiving medals at a private ceremony that will soon be held at the White House, and Eric will be there. Thank you. Thank you, Eric. That's a big one. Tonight we've celebrated many truly extraordinary American patriots, but there is one last living legend to honor before we go. He is one more heroic American aviator, Navy fighter pilot. Royce Williams served in World War II, Korea, Vietnam, flying more than 220 missions. In the skies over Korea in 1952, Royce was in the dogfight of a lifetime, legendary dogfight. Flying through blizzard conditions, his squadron was ambushed by 7 Soviet fighter planes. It was his first aerial combat of the war, and despite being massively outnumbered and outgunned, Royce led the takedown of 4 enemy jets and almost destroyed the others, vanquishing his adversaries while taking 263 bullets to his own plane and being seriously hurt. His story was secret for over 50 years. He didn't even want to tell his wife, but the legend grew and grew. But tonight, at 100 years old, this brave Navy captain is finally getting the recognition he deserves. He was a legend long before this evening. Royce, please stand up, and I will ask the First Lady of the United States to present Captain Royce Williams with his Congressional Medal of Honor. Thank you, Royce, and thank you, Eric. I've always wanted the Congressional Medal of Honor, but I was informed I'm not allowed to give it to myself, and I wouldn't know why I'd be taking it, but if they ever open up that law, I will be there with you someday. But you know, that's our highest honor, Congressional Medal of Honor, and that's a big thing, and it's an honor to be in the same room with you. Thank you both very much, Eric. Thank you. Thank you. 250 years is a long time in the life of a nation, but in another sense, it's really a mere moment in the eye of history. Two of the gentlemen we met in the gallery this evening took their first breaths 1 century ago, 100 years before that, on July 4th, 1826, the author of the Declaration of Independence, brilliant, Thomas Jefferson, drew his last breath. Just a single long human lifespan separates the giants who declared and won our independence from the heroes who stand among us tonight. Everything our nation has done, everything we have achieved, has been the work of those few great lifetimes. In those brief chapters, Americans built this nation from 13 humble colonies into the pinnacle of human civilization and human freedom, the strongest, wealthiest, most powerful, most successful nation in all of history. Americans ventured out across the daunting and dangerous continent. We carved paths through an unforgiving wilderness, settled a boundless frontier, and tamed the beautiful but very, very dangerous Wild West. From empty marshes and wide open plains, we raised up the world's greatest cities. Together, we mastered the world's mightiest industries and shattered history's monstrous tyrannies. And we liberated millions from the chains of fascism, communism, oppression, and terror. Americans lifted humanity into the skies on the wings of aluminum and steel. And then we launched mankind into the stars on rockets powered by sheer American will and unyielding American pride. We wired the globe with our ingenuity. We captivated the planet with American culture. And now we are pioneering the next great American breakthroughs that will change the entire world. All of this and so much more is the enduring legacy, unmatched glory of the hardworking patriots who built and defended this country and who still carry the hopes and freedoms on all of humanity's backs. For years they were forgotten, betrayed, and cast aside. But that great betrayal is over, and they will never be forgotten again. Because when the world needs courage, daring, vision, and inspiration, it is still turning to America. And when God needs a nation to work his miracles, he knows exactly who to ask. There is no challenge Americans cannot overcome, no frontier too vast for us to conquer, no dream too bold for us to chase, no horizon too distant for us to claim. For our destiny is written by the hand of providence, and these first 250 years were just the beginning. From the rugged border towns of Texas to the heartland villages of Michigan, from the sun-kissed shores of Florida to the endless fields of the Dakotas, and from the historic streets of Philadelphia to right here in our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., the golden age of America is upon us. The revolution that began in 1776 has not ended. It still continues because the flame of liberty and independence still burns in the heart of every American patriot. And our future will be bigger, better, brighter, bolder, and more glorious than ever before. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.
All right, everybody, we're back. We're back. Oh, wow, we need to kill the audio from that major speaker there, don't we? All right, just bear with us before this audio situation gets handled. All right. The voice of God mic is officially off. Ryan's hair is extra crazy. Krystal informed him that it looked crazy, so he made it even crazier.
So he just
and so he made it even more musky. All right, so that was, what did we clock in at? Hour 50? Is that what you're calling it?
You know, actually, the threat was sort of effective because it set my expectations for going till midnight. So when he wrapped up abruptly at 11 p.m., I was like,
yeah, we're like, okay, all right, it's not so bad. Overall,
maybe they did that on purpose.
Very long speech. It's easily going to be the longest State of the Union, probably in American history, at least in terms of the one that has been delivered. Lots of stuff that eventually came up. Started off largely on economics, transitioned to an Olympic love fest for about 10 minutes there on hockey, and then very typical of what we warned about on State of the Union. A lot of box checking. Everything was bullet points. You had the immigration section. You had voter ID. There was some stuff on foreign policy. We're going to start with that there in a second, then kind of wrapping it up by lots of medals. The sound guy here, he goes, is it normal to hand out so many medals in a State of the Union? We're like, no, it's not normal. But,
you know, 50% of the speech was like various awards, right?
Very large percent of the speech was handing out medals to various different people.
I'm going to make an annoying point. Have you followed the Wuthering Heights discourse?
Oh, man.
About how it's a movie for TikTok?
This is BP After Dark.
You got this.
Yeah, okay.
It's a movie for TikTok, meaning you're stringing all of these scenes together because you want them to become part of the clip universe.
Okay.
That's what State of the Unions are now. Because you're trying to check a box for every different cohort.
Yeah.
And then you know it's going to get targeted in this place, in this place, in this place. Yeah. And so that's why the speeches, I think at least from Trump's perspective, are getting longer because then you have more, like you can put the medal stuff
more
out.
Raw material.
I like that point a lot. That's very smart.
It's not even really meant to be
consumed in
as
full.
a cohesive.
Yeah, I kind of confirmed it also with somebody who would know.
Oh, really?
That's actually very interesting. It actually it helps because, you know, watching it in full, you're like, oh my God, man, please.
Yeah, but
like,
I
when
mean,
is
that
shit
being
gonna
said,
end?
like none of that was really super.
Yeah.
There were no moments that, I mean, we grabbed some clips. We'll show you some clips. But there was really literally nothing that I was like, oh, that's going to be a moment.
I agree.
That's
nothing
be
super
thing,
interesting,
you know?
but he got his hockey moment. He had his Irina Zaritska's parents. He had all of the different veterans those will go into the veterans.
If you ask me what goes most viral from that speech, it's probably hockey, right? Also because statistically, people only, let's think timing.
People are
hour
for
50.
Hockey,
The vast majority of people who watch, it's only going to be the first 15, 20 minutes.
Right.
Before 30.
There's no, I mean, I guess it's like sort of a controversy, but the things that usually go viral is where there's some sort of.
Oh, I didn't mean controversy. I meant just people who were like, oh, great, the hockey team is there. That's really all.
He was heckled by Ilhan Omar and then leaned in and said, you should be ashamed of yourself. That will probably be viral.
She yelled at him about Epstein. We'll get to it. We don't have that clip exactly. But by far, what we were all looking for going into the speech was Iran. And we got a very limited section on Iran. So we've gone ahead and pulled it. So control, and please cue that up as I lead into it. There was some expectation, some speculation. People were worried, oh my God, are we going to announce that we're going to war with Iran tonight? That's not really how it worked. There was even some, I even thought, I said, maybe it's going to lay out a deadline, like a declaration, an ultimatum of some kind. It was extremely generic. He's saying that Iran has not yet said the sacred words that they will not pursue a nuclear weapon. Not true, which Ryan will debunk on the other side. But guys, if we can go ahead and play it, the Iran section from the speech, and then we'll react on the other side.
As president, I will make peace wherever I can, but I will never hesitate to confront threats to America wherever we must. That's why in a breakthrough operation last June, the United States military obliterated Iran's nuclear weapons program with an attack on Iranian soil known as Operation Midnight Hammer. After Midnight Hammer, they were warned to make no future attempts to rebuild their weapons program, and in particular, nuclear weapons. Yet they continue starting it all over. We wiped it out, and they want to start all over again, and are at this moment again pursuing their sinister ambitions. We are in negotiations with them. They want to make a deal, but we haven't heard those secret words. We will never have a nuclear weapon.
So a couple of things they're saying after Midnight Hammer that they have tried to restart their program. No evidence of that literally whatsoever. Where's the DNI? Are they even going to trot out some fake intel? And then Ryan, if you want to redo your fact check on that latter part, perhaps you can right now.
All right, so Foreign Minister Sayed Araqchi today, literally today, before the speech actually, so they could have included this if they wanted to. Araqchi said, quote, "Our fundamental convictions are crystal clear, Iran will under no circumstances ever develop a nuclear weapon." Now, when it comes to like diplomatic speak, oftentimes they try to leave some like wiggle room for interpretation, but Iran will under no circumstances ever develop a nuclear weapon.
Right.
It's not a lot of wiggle room there.
Yeah, it's like, what else do we want? I mean, should
Those
they
are the
put
magic words. Those
should
are
they put it
literally
on
the magic
official
words.
letterhead and have the Ayatollah sign it? But of course, we all know. Then the goalposts will. But they didn't address ballistic missiles. But they didn't address the what else? Oh, they didn't address regional proxy, which is fake. It's like, which regional proxy? We're talking about Syria. We're talking about Lebanon. Which one? Command and control.
Also, this is definitely the first time in American history that a president has declared victory and celebrated his achievement of annihilating a foe at the same time that he's promising to re-annihilate the foe.
So true. Have you seen the White House press release going around about how back in June after Midnight Hammer, Emily, where they're like Iranian nuclear facilities obliterated. Any speculation that it wasn't true is been complete insult. To the White House.
I was going to say a little bit of breaking news, not on Iran but on Venezuela. I just got a statement from a War Department official because I asked them about yesterday's. Well, I was told to attribute it. I was told I could attribute it to a War Department official.
Okay, fine.
So on Venezuela, I had asked who they targeted yesterday specifically. Now, they had a big guest come out, Venezuela-wise, in the middle of the State of the Union, made a big deal about it. They will not tell me what group was targeted yesterday. They're citing, quote-unquote, operations security.
In the boat or on land? Or
the boat strike yesterday.
Sure.
So this gets us to Iran. You have this contradiction of we annihilated the nuclear site, and yet now we need to strike Iran again. And the same thing with Venezuela. We have annihilated the threat of Maduro, who is directing Tren de Aragua and the drug traffickers.
We're running the country.
Great point.
But
so what's
Trump
the War
said we're in
Department
charge.
official saying?
Says to protect operations security in our forces, we will not discuss specific groups, targets, or intelligence methods.
By the way, Trump in his State of the Union called Venezuela new friend and partner. So we are now bombing our new friend and partner. We are bombing our new friend and partner
until the morale
we
improves.
control. Let's just again, the Iran section of this is going to be the most important, and it was incredibly vague. There was no time that was added to it. The post about the so-called claim around they haven't said the sacred words. It's like, again, I don't know what else could happen here, but
Chuck
this
Schumer's
is
going to be very disappointed that the case wasn't made tonight.
Right. Well, if people did not watch our pre-coverage, if people did not watch our pre-show into the State of the Union, there was this pathetic effort by Mark Warner and Senator Chuck Schumer, who were like, "Oh, well,
Chris Coons,
a lot of crazy stuff said." The president really needs to make his case to the American people. It came, I mean, I don't have the timestamp. What was it, an hour 15 probably? So far, the vast majority of people had already turned it off. Only professional news folks like us are even watching there at that point. Barely, I mean, almost a minute maybe on Iran. I would say 90 seconds, 15, 20 seconds there on the Russia-Ukraine war. It was minuscule, I think, in terms of the actual part of the speech, but it was the number one thing that we were all looking for. So unfortunately, we can't really add a ton of commentary, except just to say what he's claiming is not really true in terms of his demand. Yes.
So this Martyr Made post that came out 3 or 4 hours ago. What can we? So this is what's his name, Daryl
Cooper,
like huge podcaster.
Yes.
Like what can we make of this?
Here,
like, can we talk about this at all? Like, it's public. I mean,
I have it pulled up. Here's what he said. He said, Trump has been cornered. His options, as he sees them, are to start a war with Iran on something like our own terms, or to be dragged into it at a time in the manner of Israel's choosing. The third option, telling Israel to fight their own war, is not on the table because he believes that if he does that, Israel will use nuclear weapons and he and members of his family will be in physical danger. I'm not totally sure why those two things are tied together. But anyway, the rest of the post says the military buildup has had three purposes. First, he hoped that Iran would capitulate and submit to an agreement strong enough to calm the Israelis down for the time being. Fanciful. Second, to have enough forces to deal with the fallout if Israel attacks and Iran retaliates against American bases and allies. And finally, to potentially strike first and at least be able to control the first phase of combat. The talk of limited strikes reflects his hope that Iran can be intimidated into buckling because Trump genuinely does not want war. That's where we're at. I've never prayed for a politician or government before, but I prayed for Trump for the first time yesterday. You should too. So that's what he's saying based on whoever he is.
He's obviously close to Tucker Carlson.
Yeah.
You know, look, what I will say is I heard something similar in terms of what Donald, I mean, look, I alluded to it earlier in our show, Krystal, is that Israel is fundamentally in control of the dynamic. When we talk about the Pentagon, with deep frustration with the United States, the deep frustration within the White House right now. And again, I'm not excusing this. I'm explaining kind of the view is, well, Israel may do it or not. And if they do it, then we're going to get sucked in. So we might as try to control the dynamic. But what this ignores,
what happens if you don't get?
This is the problem: is that it ignores and the third option, the actual option, which is, hey, tell Israel not to do it and decide that we're going to cut them up.
And say, hey, if you do, like, we're not going to continue to sell you weapons.
Yes.
We are not going to be there to make sure that you don't get hit when there is Iranian retaliation. I mean, the threat of nukes here is so insane. And let's keep in mind, like, Israel doesn't, it's supposed to be still a secret that they have nuclear weapons. But there's all this concern about Iran getting a nuclear weapon. Like, you have this psycho rogue regime in the Middle East already that is supposed to be our client state. And they're out here basically, like, low-key threatening us that they're going to start some sort of nuclear conflagration if they don't get their way.
Also, I don't think we should ignore in that State of the Union speech that Trump literally said Iran is trying to create an ICBM capable of hitting the United States. I know we're living in a post-truth. Like, can we get some evidence of that at all? Because that would actually, be a game changer. No, it's fake, right? It's literally made up. Is that, they had regional ballistic missile threats. He said Europe and our bases. I think we all know who he's talking about whenever it comes to regional. But they're trying to frame it very Iraq war style of like, first it's Europe and our, but now they're developing this in, what did Steve Witkoff say? They're weeks away from an industrial grade bomb, which, as our producer Mac points out, isn't literally every state bomb an industrial grade bomb. Like, you can't create a bomb.
He was using the wrong term, which goes to your point about not having not remotely experts, like using basic terms wrong. I'm not an expert, but industrial is not the right term. The weapons grade is what he's trying to go for.
Good.
And of course,
point.
the goalpost in June was you absolutely had to do this because of their nuclear capacity. It was specifically the threat of nuclear imminence coming from Iran. So this is it's in disagreement with their own argument in June.
Yeah.
When he says that his family would be at risk, I feel like that's code for his family is vulnerable on a lot of levels when it comes to that you could expose things about them, or they have like business relationships that could be jeopardized. I don't think that Israel is going to go out and kill them. Like, I just don't. I'm sorry. That's not like.
Yeah, but if I told you Israel wouldn't nuke them, like, dude, there's a serious part. There's a serious thought here in Washington that they actually would, that they really would use. I mean, considering what has now happened with Gaza, now
the gloves are off.
Like, so what, 7 countries bombed in 2 years?
You guys are really saying different things.
Oh, okay.
You're totally bought into the idea they would nuke Iran.
Oh, okay.
You don't believe they would assassinate Trump and his family members.
I see.
However, this is where the Epstein files kind of come into play, don't they? I mean, this is the thing. This is why the little bit we know is so important to understand. Like, what do the Israelis know? What does Trump think the Israelis know? What is he concerned about? Because we can say without a shadow of a doubt that he is worried about what is in these files in their entirety. Look at the treatment of Ghislaine Maxwell getting moved in the Club Fed getting a puppy and treating the warden like her bitch. He is worried about some things that are in there. And he has to assume the Israelis know about that. So when some of these pieces don't add up of like, okay, well, if they attack Iran, why are we getting sucked into it? And how does this put you in danger? You have to put the Epstein factor into that as well.
Yeah, I mean, not just, but that business, like you just said, the business relationships of everything. I mean,
these are not independent.
These are all exactly, not exactly independent. I don't want to get too far down the Iran rabbit, but I still believe. I mean, this is the number one most important part. story in the entire country. And
Yeah.
even within the State of the, if anything, actually, not having a State of the Union, there was no flagship proposal, right? It was a lot of box checking. And if you guys want, we can turn to the economy. The first 15 minutes or so was basically a retread, the greatest economy in history. I have
Yeah, it was gaslighting
here in my
basically. Like,
notes.
things are great and the Dow's up and you guys
Roaring
should keep
economy
feeling
is
amazing.
roaring like never before, right? Mortgage rates, new construction jobs, largest tax
Mortgage
cut,
rates.
affordability. They said They said Democrats caused and created the prices. You caused that problem. We did pick up though that the White House is obviously very, they're very paying attention, I think, to some of the populist issues that we've highlighted here on our show, and there are three of them all in a row. Data centers, number one. 2 was stock ban. And 3 was about banning these private equity groups from owning large swaths of housing. So we actually have a clip here on data centers. It was kind of the more populist section, if you will, of the State of the Union. Let's take a listen.
Many Americans are also concerned that energy demand from AI data centers could unfairly drive up their electric utility bills. Tonight, I'm pleased to announce that I have negotiated the new Ratepayer Protection Pledge. You know what that is? We're telling the major tech companies that they have the obligation to provide for their own power needs. They can build their own power plants as part of their factory so that no one's prices will go up. And in many cases, prices of electricity will go down for the community and very substantially down. This is a unique strategy never used in this country before. We have an old grid. It could never handle the kind of numbers, the amount of electricity that's needed. So I'm telling them they can build their own plant. They're going to produce their own electricity. It will ensure the company's ability to get electricity while at the same time lowering prices of electricity for you, and could be very substantial for all of you cities and towns. You're going to see some good things happen over the next number of years.
By the way, that was immediately followed by the private equity discussion and then by the congressional stock trading ban.
Yeah.
All issues that have been bubbling up online. Now, as usual, devil's in the details. Is it going to happen? This is a rate pledge, allegedly privately agreed to by companies. Where's the fact sheet? Are they actually going to do it? Is this going to be national policy? Now, what have we learned about the data center fight? Data centers is a state and a local issue. Is every state and locality actually going to be able to agree with this, right? So I'm very doubtful that this will actually become national policy, but for me, this is a reminder that they can see some of the writing on the wall. And despite the first 15 minutes or so, which was very much like we're in the roaring economy, everything is Biden's fault, that was a midterm section where they're like, we need to reclaim some ground here. There was no credit card interest rate cap, which I did take notice of.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Let's talk about whether that was actually good politics or whether this guy is living in a bubble. So, Krystal, you live in a rural area. You come to rural people and you say, you know what? I want to build a data center. People are like, Now you come to them and say, I want to build a data center and right next to it, I want to build a power plant. Are they more excited or less excited?
That's exactly what I was thinking when they were saying this. But it's sort of irrelevant because I view it as a fake proposal anyway.
Right.
Like
we're lying about the power center.
Right. I mean, I think it's a fake proposal. I think it's an attempt to recognize, like they recognize this is a problem for them. It's a real rub, in areas where they have a lot of support. There was I think a New York Times article about some Trump supporters who were like, I like what he's doing, but this data center stuff is really bad. Like, this is a major issue for them. They clearly have recognized it. The reason I say it's a fake proposal is this is not something you can do with an executive order. Yeah. And so you're going to, now, and think of what we're really talking about. Okay, you're going to mandate tech companies to build power plants, a business they are not actually in, and they're all in this race to spin up as many data centers as fast as they can, and it's no holds barred in terms of like complete deregulation. And now you're going to add into this and also you're going to. I mean, there's no way if the government was going to get involved and build out these power plants or whatever, maybe. But yeah, this would be something that would have to go through Congress. It would have to be a major proposal. All of that, you would require significant compulsion from the federal government to get these AI companies to do it. So I just see it as
If we had the
running.
IRA still in
Well,
effect,
well,
one thing, but
that's another
somebody
question.
nuked that, not sure who.
Yeah.
But that's,
Interesting.
I mean, the way that Trump could get compulsion is because all of these CEOs and companies are rushing to get his affection and be lavished in his praise and all of that.
That's
so
kind
I
of
guess
the way he was selling it. He's like, they've agreed to a rate. Again, look,
exactly.
we
He's
got
framing it as though they're under his thumb, which to some extent they are. But
Yeah.
to the point that Krystal made, it's a lot of money.
Well, it reminds me of, we were talking about the Maha stuff, which we really should talk more about because it's, that was an important part of his coalition. And
Not a lot in the speech.
Yeah, no, basically
one
nothing
mention.
in the speech.
Nope.
Remember, he did that whole the food companies decided they're just going to voluntarily get all the artificial colors and preservatives out of their food. Well, that just got quietly rolled back. So, once businesses like, no thanks.
They're
then,
on fire over the glyphosate stuff.
Yeah, the glyphosate thing is
and they
very
should be
interesting.
because there were tens of thousands of claims against Monsanto now there over Roundup and the link to cancer, and to do this and to then use the Defense Production Act to spin this stuff. I mean, it really is grotesque, and it truly is a betrayal. And to see if RFK Jr. just turn around and rubber stamp and say, yeah, great, I approve of it, is
Well, he
disgraceful.
made it about the supply chain, not to get too off track,
Of
but they
course.
made it about the supply chain thing. But everyone was like, yo, dude, in the same executive order, you give them immunity. It's like, that's what we're
Yeah,
upset
that's
about.
what-
And that's
yeah.
what you should be upset about,
Yeah.
right? That's the whole thing. That's like as anti-Maha as it gets. So, look, we're just trying to frame it in terms of they see a big political problem. They spent a lot of time. We had the data center thing. We had the mortgage rates. There was a discussion, what is it, the lowest mortgage rate in a couple of years. They were talking about rent prices. So affordability, while it was, it's not nearly enough at the top as it should have been. Because if you think, as I always talk about with State of the Unions, people only watch like 15, 30 minutes. So when you're like 45, 50, 60 minutes or something into a speech, like you're going way down, like not a lot of people are going to hear this. To me, it felt very box check. And
Yeah.
it's a preview of what I think is going to be their midterm affordability strategy, like going forward.
So we should say this was actually officially now, it was an hour and 47 minutes, so that is the longest State of the Union on record.
there you go.
Second was Trump's joint address last year, which doesn't technically count as a State of the Union, but before that, Bill Clinton's State of the Union in 2000 was the longest. It was an
Gotcha.
hour and 28 minutes.
Gotcha.
So significant.
Which people melted down
Significantly
over.
longer.
Totally
Yes.
melted down.
20
over.
minutes longer.
We had standards.
I mean,
back
it
then.
was insanely long.
We had standards
Like,
back
It
then.
ended abruptly.
this
though.
speech was
Yeah, it
very
did.
long. Like, your Wuthering Heights point is very good. Like, it was really not a cohesive speech. Like, it really was
Yeah.
just a
It-
clip,
it was a
clip,
hodgepodge.
clip,
I was
clip.
in college
fairness,
then.
I
I
feel
promise
like-
I did not watch.
But they're all like this. Yeah.
I feel like, in fairness, they are all kind of
Yeah.
like that. It's hard to check all those boxes and string some sort of narrative together. But yeah, there didn't even seem to really be an effort
No.
to do that. In
Yeah.
this case,
Trying to
it's
make
like, here's some
moments
shit and
and
let me give
moments.
another award.
Yes.
Yeah, it was all trying to create individual moments. On the economic front, we are in enough of a dire, uncertain circumstance with regard to the economy that even if some of these proposals were real, these kind of gimmicky one-off proposals are just not sufficient, right? Even if the credit card interest rate thing was in here, which it wasn't, and he's clearly just abandoned that would be something, but it's not like people are going to see that and be like, oh, my life has turned around and now I have hope for the future. They're still going to be worried about AI, which, at this point in time, okay, you talk about the data centers, but to not talk about any of the labor, any of the other stuff that's going on with AI when this is a central, this is the central economic growth policy that your administration is pursuing, I think it's incredibly negligent. To me, it's very noteworthy. He spent a lot of time. You brought this up, Saagar. You didn't talk about ICE. At all.
So I tweeted it just to make sure I'm not getting fact checked. There was
Yeah.
not a single mention about it.
There was a lot of
Nobody
talk
else
about
can find it.
immigration.
Yeah.
There were some big, some of his big moments with the base were on immigration, et cetera. And I think they still feel like that. And I think it is still some of their stronger ground. But, he's now underwater significantly on immigration, too. So the one area, the well that he could always go back to, even that's not a reliable winner for him outside of his committed followers.
Do we have the immigration segment? Just come into my ear and tell me if we do.
We
Because,
do, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So why don't we go ahead and play that? This is going to be, the biggest one that you're going to see, going around for a lot of the Republicans for their reaction. Trump, what did he say? He's like, stand up if you think Americans should only serve the interest of Americans. It set off some confrontation, and Ilhan Omar shouted at him, which led to some heckling. Let's take a listen.
Isn't that a shame? You should be ashamed of yourself not standing up. You should be ashamed of yourself. That is why I'm also asking you to end deadly sanctuary cities that protect the criminals and enact serious penalties for public officials who block the removal of criminal aliens. In many cases, drug lords, murderers all over our country, they're blocking the removal of these people out of our country, and you should be ashamed of yourself.
There's your juxtaposition. You got Ilhan. She was shouting, "You have killed Americans." He's saying, "Don't stand, or please stand if you've had your moment." But I will say, if you listen to that,
We should fact check
It's basic.
the claim.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
He has killed Americans.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you for that fact check.
Well,
Daniel
he
Dale,
personally hasn't.
over
He
here.
ordered
Right. Yeah. Well, if you want to
the
get technical.
operation that killed the
But
Americans.
you know, to the point about rhetoric, the word ICE was not uttered. The word CBP was not uttered. The new funding for the DHS, in terms of like the big ICE funding for the original bill, was not discussed. The only mention of the big beautiful bill was about corporate tax cut. If you think specifically about immigration and the way that it was talked about, it was very 2025. It was all about open border, and it was about specific victims, but there was no mention whatsoever of Minneapolis, of Los Angeles, of any of the major raids that have happened across the country.
There was mention of Minneapolis.
Right, but about Somalis. Exactly.
And which, I mean, is noteworthy for what you're saying, but also he did this whole like, oh, JD Vance is going to be the czar of like finding fraud and corruption or whatever. I mean,
Interesting.
Yeah, which is interesting, and I want to get your thoughts on that. But it's also like, that was the whole pretext for you going into Minneapolis. So if you're going to find all this fraud, what were you people doing there? Like, obviously, that was completely false pretense.
But if you read into the politics of that, they're going right back to the 2024-2025 case of we have no more, which is true. You know, they shut the border down. Okay, so there's no more illegal migrants who are coming across the border. But the case about mass deportation, the word mass deportation wasn't uttered. The singular campaign message, which literally was behind Donald Trump whenever he accepted the nomination at the 2024 RNC, ICE was not discussed. CBP.
Hulk Hogan was not there?
Homan.
R.I.P.
I thought you said Homan for a second.
I didn't say Tom Homan.
Sorry. R.I.P.
Hulk Homan.
R.I.P. to Hulk
That's
Hogan.
what I heard, too.
Yeah, that's what I heard. I was like, yeah, okay, sorry. This is a classic Emily situation. Sorry. But, you know, thinking...
Derailing as usual.
Just thinking generally about the way that they had to frame it on immigration, that was a loss to me, considering how much they have now, political capital that they have spent on the issue. Nothing about Minneapolis, Los Angeles, any of the major surges that have dominated the headlines.
Yeah.
I mean, that's honestly shocking if you consider, if you were to go on Twitter or if you were to go and look at the communications of the White House on a daily basis for the last, 3 months? I mean, Minneapolis immigration, ICE, and all that's going to be number
world
one.
thinks about us,
Two of the
like,
list.
yeah.
It's going to,
Totally.
oh my
That's the thing.
God, it's everywhere. And there's barely anything in the speech.
I agree with that. I think the lack of ICE is significant. I think that moment is a win for Trump. I also
Which
think
one,
it's a win
immigration?
for Ilhan Omar. I think him
yeah,
saying
of
you
course.
should be ashamed, and then Ilhan
Right.
Omar coming back and saying no, you should be ashamed.
Yeah.
That I think is a win.
She's going to
for
raise
both
$1
of
million
them.
by the end of the day.
Yeah, I agree completely with that. But it also is like it reminds me of where we were a year ago, which was everyone talking about ICE, Kristi Noem, and Doge.
Right.
And the JD Vance point is interesting because we're talking about fraud and rooting it out of government last year, all under the auspices of Elon Musk's operation and Doge. So much fun, everything's great. And now JD Vance has potentially been turned into the Kamala Harris border czar of fraud, meaning fraud that happens after JD Vance has been fingered as the fraud czar.
Right.
Yeah.
Is now going to
You
come
made
back.
this point live. I thought it was genius. I genuinely did not. It did not click for me. Well, you know, to elaborate even more, what you're saying is that if Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff and all these other guys, and all these crazy deals and crypto and the pardons
Polymarket.
and all this, and it's like, well, you were the czar of fraud. It's like, why did you know, the Binance? Did you guys see this Binance story recently? But the CEO, he got pardoned, and then they just facilitated a bunch of money to like Iranian, around Iranian sanctions using crypto. I mean, it's totally nuts,
And
right?
to layer
Yeah.
another point on top of what Emily is saying, maybe you guys disagree with me, maybe not. This is the most corrupt administration. Like, okay, maybe some grant.
Teapot
grant.
Dome. Come on, I was like,
Okay.
come on, Teapot Dome, bro.
that
let's
whole-
not get carried away.
The reason I
Yeah.
say this is the most
Yeah.
corrupt because it's the entire Senate and Congress and Grant, like during the Teapot Dome, like they're all trading. Like it's all rotten all the way through. Right now, the White House is far and away leading the charge on this crypto level of corruption, like this getting the
Billions and
getting the UAE
billions
to
of
buy
dollars.
half of their crypto thing, and then going to Pakistan and telling them they got to put in $1 billion, and these guys have to put in $1 billion. You got to put in $1
see what
billion.
you're saying. I see what you're saying.
Whereas members of Congress aren't there yet. Maybe.
Right.
Give us 5 years. They'll have their own.
They're on a smaller scale, but not even close to this level.
But
Yeah, that's fair.
so they're so much more corrupt than even the average Washington politician. And then you're going to say that J.D. Vance is the one who's the sheriff on all of this. If Democrats take control of the House, we're going to have some interesting hearings. We're going to get a lot of interesting information about the stuff that's gone on the last couple of years. And you'll be able to lay that at the foot of Sheriff J.D. Vance. Like, hey, weren't you the corruption czar?
Yeah, what happened
Who
with
is
that?
also supposed to now balance the budget. Trump said that JD would root out fraud in the service of balancing the budget. So it's like the classic Veep burden.
You might as well put a gun in your
He's
mouth.
delivered.
All right, good luck, buddy.
Balance the
Yeah.
budget.
I mean, you remember what Biden gave Kamala?
What,
Oh, yeah.
immigration? What else?
Sorry.
The border.
Yeah.
Not just immigration, but actually the border.
Right.
Yeah.
And she was like, do not come.
Yeah,
She's
right.
like, I got nothing else. What
yeah.
else we got? And then what else? Oh, gun safety, which, like, they were not passing anything on that. Like, they were doing nothing on guns. So they're like, Kamala, you do guns. And then when it was very clear that they weren't going to do anything on voting rights, they were like, Kamala, you take voting rights. So it's like whatever you are not going to get done and is going to get worse, you give to the person you don't like. So that's not great for J.D. Vance.
It's not a great
It's really not.
That's a good point.
He did not have to do that.
Genuinely
Like,
did not
Trump did not
think
have
about
to do
that. I think it is important, but in terms of reading into the tea leaves of everything, speech starts out, economy's good, it's all the Democrats' fault. Then we have our Team USA hockey moment. Then we get, which lasted more than 10. Look, love Team USA, but man, 10 minutes is too long. All right, and so then we get into the more populist economic stuff. We have a couple of throwaway lines, one big beautiful bill.
That was
I'm
about
looking
20
at some
minutes
of the
into the
timeline.
speech, by the way.
Right,
That's,
so
we have
Well, I'm going to agree
affordability.
with your original assessment that none of this is going to matter.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, look, if you listen to the speech, we're gonna have a few clips, and then that's it. And what's kind of interesting is even Trump is not really trying to make this a big deal. We were talking this morning about how big of a deal the State of the Unions were under Obama. And remember, they would have like a big theme, and be like, save American jobs. And then the president would go on a bus tour for 50, they're not even pretending now. They're like, yeah, Trump will be in Texas on Friday for a different event. And Iran will be back in the news tomorrow, or something like that. We're trying to piece, if anything, what we just saw was a political view into the mind of the White House of, okay, ICE is a problem. We need to make immigration much more like 2025, 2024 than it is 2026.
One
affordability.
quick note on that.
Yeah.
There were a bunch of administration officials who got shout-outs. Kristi Noem, Stephen Miller were
Nope.
not among them.
Yeah.
Tom Homan.
Yeah, right.
Hope Hogan,
None of those
to your
guys.
point.
I didn't even see Kristi
Yeah.
Noem.
So, I mean, by my count, we had Secretary Besant, Rubio,
Yeah.
the vice president. That's it.
Well, you
got
got
the
you
shout-outs.
had Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff,
Right, of course.
who are,
Yeah.
whatever
Not in
they
cabinet,
are.
but
Yeah.
He said everybody loves Rubio.
Yeah.
Got 100%.
Right, so everybody, you got 100. Yeah, thank you, everybody. Bipartisanship is alive and well in Washington.
But I mean, you know how much Kristi Noem loves the spotlight, so to avoid
True,
to
yeah.
not,
True.
to
Oh
not
my
get
gosh.
a little
Yeah.
nod
She's
in
probably
there.
steaming.
One of the
It's
most
definitely gonna
touted
be-
cabinet members at this time last year.
Yeah, that's right. So I'm just, in terms of the internal politics, who's up, who's down, I think that's kind of noteworthy. But, in terms of like political impact, I don't think it's going to matter at all.
No.
The most consequential part is that we did get a little bit on tariffs, but nothing, again, that was really different from what they've been.
Nothing noteworthy.
Saying-
Didn't even attack SCOTUS. That could have been a viral moment. That
was
could have been
frosty,
something we
but-
could have all talked about, right? He didn't even really go out. He was like, it was very disappointing. And he looked right at him. It was very disappointing.
We did
and he just
have-
moved on. There was nothing.
We did have a fun Zoran moment.
Yes, we have that.
We have that, guys. Should we go ahead and play? I actually stepped down during this, so I'm watching.
This one's about
my-
voter ID. So the lead-in.
seeing this for the first
I'll
time.
explain. The lead-in was Trump was called. What's it called? Is it the Save Act or the Save America?
The Save
Save
Act.
Act.
Okay, it's the Save Act. So it was a lead-in for a calling of the Save Act, which is what is this? Passed the House, currently in the Senate. It would need 60 votes, so it's going nowhere. We're required.
Unless they do a talking filibuster.
Oh, okay, but I doubt that'll happen. But so
just
it'd be
doing
like
doesn't want to.
it would be what? It would be mandatory voter ID, proof of citizenship to be able to vote. As
Federally.
part of that, what it leads into was this talk about the Zoran snow shoveling thing, which was a big
like him a lot.
discourse. If you're not online and you don't know what we're talking about, God bless you. It's about, which you even had to explain to me because I'm not online enough, is what was it? He announced a snow shoveling program, and as part of that, you get paid. Is it $20 an hour?
They upped it to
18, but it went
30.
up to 30.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's honestly pretty good work. So snow shoveling, $30 an hour, but to get the job, you have to provide 2 forms of identification.
It was even more
for
ridiculous than that. You had to have the 2 of the like 1.5 inch by 1.5 inch passport photos, which I think is probably a corrupt bargain that some mayor made with like a cartel that owns those little photo
The little
shops.
passport
Oh,
photo
really?
shop.
Passport photo shops. Because what? Like,
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, wait, you need a
sounds
passport photo to get paid from the city?
yes.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That is
All right.
like some Dinkin level.
Okay.
Like that has to go back.
I
like
love
some.
that. Yeah, they're keeping
We gotta
CBS.
trace the.
Yes, we
No,
the
they don't have
etymology of
CBS
that.
in New York. What's it called? Dwayne
the-
Reed or whatever?
Dwayne
Yeah,
Reed.
Dwayne Reed.
Aristides.
Anyway,
Oh, no, that's
so
the
that
grocery
was the
store.
lead-in to this Zoran moment. Let's take a listen.
And even the new communist mayor of New York City, I think he's a nice guy, actually. Speak to him a lot. Bad policy, but nice guy. Just said they want people to shovel snow. They got hit hard. Wants them to shovel snow, but if you apply for that job, you need to show 2 original forms of ID and a Social Security card. Yet they don't want identification for the greatest privilege of them all, voting in America. No, it's no good. No good. Both Republicans and Democrats overwhelmingly agree on the policy that we just enunciated. And Congress should unite and enact this common sense, country-saving legislation right now, and it should be before anything else happens.
So there you go. Nice guy. Still talk to him a lot.
Communist mayor of
the
New
communist
York.
mayor.
Yeah, I
But
like
he's a
it.
good guy.
I
talked
love that
all the time.
he ad-libbed that in. That's so sweet.
He
That was a
doesn't
big
I
have
say
one.
that about Ryan
romance.
all the time. He's a nice guy. I talk to him all the
Communist.
time.
Talk to him all the time. He's a good
Communist
guy.
mayor.
I guess, yeah. I mean, it's all accurate.
On a more serious note with
Yeah.
regard to all the election and the voter stuff, I mean, he did make this point of like, oh, the Democrats could never win if they don't cheat. And, you know, as we're watching heading into the midterms and all the shenanigans they're already pulling and the seizing of the, voter rolls in a variety of states and a lot of red states going along with whatever they're doing, purging people who belong on the rolls, the seizing the Fulton County voting machines, the ballots from 2020, whatever Tulsi Gabbard's up to, potential Maduro deal. There is a lot to be concerned about with regard to whether the midterm elections are going to be free and fair. What sort of, we know there are going to be shenanigans.
He
what
joked about
sort
a
of
third term in
shenanigans
the
they're going to
speech.
pull. What's
he?
that?
He joked about a 3rd term in the speech.
He
said,
did,
"It
yeah,
should be
he
my
did. He said, "This
third,
should have been
but
my third
strange
term."
Strange things happen.
I see.
Yeah. So I know that a bunch of Democratic AGs are sort of like wargaming, what the possible scenarios are. And I think we were talking before, he is aware that his political positioning is quite bad at this point. He's aware of the historical trends. He's talked about that too, of the party in power. He's aware that people aren't buying what he's selling. He's a bit confused by that, but he, clearly has some awareness that it's not looking good. And certainly he knows that if Democrats take back even one chamber, then you're, any agenda that you had potentially going through Congress, not that much has gotten past your Congress anyway, grinds to a halt. You've got all these investigations. It's going to be, a lot less fun. So.
I think they don't even care about agenda. I think all they care about is not having to literally live on Capitol Hill for investigations,
Yeah,
which is a huge. I mean, it's going to be a nightmare.
But
for them.
if Dems retake the Senate, and that's not out of the realm of possibility, you have a literal impeachment on the table.
Oh, it's
not
it's-
just
it's
House
crazy.
impeachment. You have an
Well,
actual
no, wait.
House
How many votes do you need?
You need 67 though.
I was
Yeah,
going to say you need
2/3 in the Senate.
2/3 in the Senate.
Yeah,
You need
that's
67.
true.
Yeah.
That's
You would get
true.
a trial.
You would
You'd
have
get
the
it- you'd
trial.
get the trial
it'd be
in
the
the
trial of the
Senate.
century.
By the way, on this, nobody's talked about this, but on this voting bill that he wants to do, like the main thing it would do is make it more difficult to register to vote if you're a woman who has changed her name at some point. But the problem is that
Sorry, I actually haven't looked into this. How?
Yeah.
Why? Because of passport
Birth
documents?
certificates.
it's because you have to get your birth certificate and your passport.
If
and
you
you're like,
are one of the people who doesn't have a real ID or a driver's license,
Wait,
that
who doesn't have
qualifies.
real ID?
Millions
There are
of
a
people.
couple of states that don't
How?
mandate real ID,
Of-
Yeah,
or they
of
have
the
Virginia is
it.
one of them. You don't have to have
Yeah.
real ID.
of the people that this would affect, the ones that would affect the most are women who change their name to get married.
Okay.
80% of Democrats change their name when they get married. 90% of Republicans change their name when they get married. Married women went for Trump over Harris. Like, he won this group. And the ones that are more likely to have changed their names are more likely to be Republican.
Oh, the SAVE Act was drafted before even the 2020 election.
Yes, I think this is like 30-year-old legislation that they just took off the shelf and didn't update. Democrats could let it through, and it would hurt Republicans more, is my point.
Well, I've always talked about that with mail-in ballots. Remember back in 2020, Trump literally would have won the state of Georgia if just the number of people who voted by mail had actually voted, because it was a significant number of, whatever, it's not even worth getting into.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, we don't have to go down that rabbit hole.
Well, it sort of reminds me of the redistricting thing, where like, you know, Texas, now that the Latino support for the Republicans has fallen through the floor,
they're like,
they drew their lines based on, you know, something approximating Trump's Latino support in the state of Texas, could end up really screwing themselves with the redistricting. Not to mention that Democrats, you know, came in hot and were like, okay, bet, you know, we're going to do this in California, Virginia, that's another thing, you know, Spanberger's going within the legislature
20
there.
seats.
And I think that California's map got held up by SCOTUS recently, I believe.
Did it?
Or it was,
I thought it went
I think
through.
their affirmation was held. No, not held up. I mean, it was affirmed by SCOTUS.
Yeah, yeah.
They were
I
like,
think
yes,
that's
you're
right,
allowed
yeah.
to go through. Any final thoughts? What do you guys think?
I mean, it didn't. I agree with everyone that
This changed everything.
It didn't. Yeah, this was the
Things will never be
transformation.
the
This is transformed.
You know, after watching Biden's brain melt in this very desk, I'm not sure it'll ever. Nothing will ever.
never gonna match
Nothing's
that.
ever gonna come
that
back
was
to
legendary.
That.
We were all eating
God.
like
We're
the
like-
takeout food and like, whoa.
Thank God we had the ceiling fan.
Yeah, the ceiling
to
fan.
catch that.
Yeah, there was that
moment.
fame of you and me being like covering our faces
In shock.
like this. I was like, oh, I mean, we knew it was bad, but we didn't know it was that bad.
Medicaid.
You knew the cover-up that you'd been engaging in had finally been exposed.
That's
Right,
right.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
oh, we
that's-
won't be able
that's
to
true.
tell people that he is. What were some
We
of the
were-
things
It's
people
over.
would say? Like, this is the best Biden's ever been. Isn't that what
Yes.
Scarborough said?
Oh my God.
Oh yeah, the best Biden ever.
It outworks us all
Yeah.
from 10 to 2.
That was
There's a brief window from 1 p.m. to 1:15 p.m. where
He
this
outworks us
man
all.
is unstoppable.
My takeaway is
Doesn't
honestly
even
that
stop talking, in fact.
the State of the Union is now a fucking clip show. Like it's
Yeah.
a clip show.
No, you're totally
That's
right.
where we are
Absolutely.
now. And I mean, whatever.
yeah, I'm with you. Like,
That's what everything is
Pretty
now.
good
It's all a
conclusion.
clip
Yeah.
show.
we'll go back tomorrow. You know, the news. Maybe tomorrow there'll be something. Like,
Yeah.
We won't
follow
go
up
back
on
tomorrow, though.
State of the Union.
Yeah.
But yeah. After that, like by Thursday, I'm predicting there's not even gonna be a single mention.
I will say one thing I saw someone made a comment of on Twitter is, you know, one of the special guests there was Erica Kirk, wife of Charlie Kirk, widow of Charlie Kirk. And there is a disgusting irony to having her there at a speech where he's, you know, very likely going to war with Iran at a time when, you know, I mean, Charlie was one of those
true.
people who came in the White House and got barked at because he was opposed to the previous war. So to now have her at that speech when, you know, we're all basically expecting that this is coming any day is
Really good point, honestly.
Yeah,
he would have
something.
been, I mean, look, you know, you could say a lot about the guy, but on this topic, he actually was, I mean, look, he at times would go silent when the administration would ask him to, but his actual opinions on the matter, were, especially on Iran, were pretty rock solid, especially Lindsey Graham going after Ayatollah, saying there should be no regime change. I have really noticed it, actually. I feel like the anti-war movement has evaporated,
Yeah.
basically. There's nothing left.
Yeah, and look, I'm not here to like, you know, give Charlie Kirk like the greatest credit in the world, but it is noteworthy. I think two things happened. I mean, number one, he was killed, and number two, there is this sense that like, oh, the 12-day war was fine, like you guys were wrong, and I think that's cowed a lot of people into silence. So you just
1,000%.
don't see the same level of friction on the right that you did in the build up to the 12-day war and then the Democrats.
So some of it has to be disbelief. Like, are we really doing this again?
Yeah. I
did
think with
this.
the public, I do think that there's that sense of that. of
Oh, I
like,
keep saying that.
you
People
know,
are not paying attention.
people
Even
don't
with the
realize what
speech.
this
Like, we
could
just
be.
did the
Yeah.
war. We're doing another war?
Dude, Ryan, they barely paid attention to that one. Think about how much stuff has happened in the interim. No Americans died. That's their favorite
Right.
talking point, by the way. Nobody died in the bombing. Why were you so upset about it? And I was like, because I knew that this shit wouldn't end. I knew that we were going to be back here at the trial. But think about how deeply you have to pay attention. All this negotiation and, oh, they're meeting again? What? Okay, whatever. A carrier strike group, when's it getting there? You know, people have a lot going on in their lives. So until the bombs really start flying, I don't think people, if you took a poll, I don't think 90% of people.
Well, in this case, we must have tens of thousands of people over there by now.
Yeah, we do.
Like on all the different ships.
We have tens
and
of thousands of
everything.
people there normally, but now we have
But now
extra
we
tens
have,
of
like,
thousands.
on
Yeah,
top
exactly.
of that.
This
like-
is the problem. I mean, yeah. I mean, there's no case being made. There's no hearing. The opposition party is saying that he needs to make a case. There's no organized effort. There's that story out this morning. This afternoon, that what was it? They're trying to kill the Ro Khanna Thomas Massey War Powers Resolution vote because they don't want anybody to go on the record. We're being sleptwalk into the entire thing. It's very, very World War I-esque.
Could blow up in Venezuela still, too.
Of course it could. What? I mean, yeah, could we all trust the great stewardship of Marco Rubio down in Venezuela and his ability to broker oil deals? I mean, any of these things can collapse. Look at Mexico. They killed the cartel guy and the city went on fire. It could have been 10 times worse. Americans, tourists could have been killed. We could have been a full-blown conflagration. You have no idea when something is going to pop off. Any last thoughts, Ryan?
No, that's all I got.
All right. Thank you guys so much for watching. 11:47 p.m. Brutal, man.
And you haven't been up this late in a long time.
It's been probably election night, honestly. I can't even think of the last time I was awake at this ungodly hour.
Did I ever go to bed before this?
Sun will be up early.
Really? That's crazy.
You are insane. That's crazy.
That's my bedtime.
That's crazy behavior. Anyway, Ryan, as a parent, dude, I don't know how you're pulling the schedule.
I don't know.
He's not.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Your wife is a saint. I
And
guess
he's a
we'll leave it at
mogul
that.
now.
Yeah, that's true.
He's a media mogul.
That's right. There you go.
True.
All right. Thank you guys so much for watching. We appreciate you all very, very much. We'll have some clips up tomorrow, full show on Thursday. We'll see you all then.